Skynet has sent a new Terminator back in time. I'm doing so. They have created a new timeline. The window to follow will not stay open long, and once it closes,
The chance to follow the Terminator into this timeline will disappear.
you know what needs to be done, don't you, Aiko? You mustn't let anyone get in your way.
You said that it had to be me. Are you sure I'm the one you want?
You're the only one who can do this. It always had to be you.
Do you really know what's going to happen? Or is this all just bullshit?
Listen to me. Try to understand. No one knows what will happen. You have no fate, child. That's the fucking point.
Now, these are not part of the quotes, but probably you are out of options. That's where you're coming to.
Well, if
Welcome, guys.
chaos is involved.
Oh, dear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am not Terminator. I am your host, Robert.
He is the initiator. This chaos, guys.
Come on, spit it out, Chaos. You can do it.
I said this is chaos, guys, now for a second time.
Oh, okay. And
There's
this
nothing
is
more to me than that. I'm just chaos, bro. That's it.
okay.
Simple.
This is true. You've been Chaos for a
Uncomfortable, but
long
simple.
time now.
It's like Cher, you know?
Yeah.
How is South Florida? Are mosquitoes already picking on the crocodiles over there?
Yes, they are.
I was thinking of getting a crocodile
The
pet.
moment it warms up, the mosquitoes are here. But yes, I'm yet another host, Ray, down in South Florida, otherwise known as Australia.
Del ano plenty.
Apparently, plenty of mosquitoes anyway. And we have another guest from Bris Vegas, which is also in South Florida.
That's like Beverly Hills of
Angelus, how you doing?
Fan-bloody-tastic.
Nice.
He's got some caffeine. He's all right now.
Yeah, we're all good. I got my whiskey. I got my beer. Yeah, we're good.
So could we say that you're a city boy, Angelus?
Technically, yeah. I mean, I live and work in the city now.
Aren't you 34 floors up right now?
Yes.
I got the right number.
Look outside.
Nice taking it.
Oh, it was like 41.
41. I didn't get the right number. The building has grown.
Close enough.
No.
So, is it worth asking that question that I asked this week? I understand you boys haven't had a lot of time to watch stuff this week.
Oh my God, yes. That is an understatement.
Well, it's your own fault, Robert, for taking time off. Apparently.
Yeah, it is definitely my fault.
If anything is fine, you can go to Robert because he has enough to take it off.
It's holidays.
I would have to thank our very own here, mad scientist, because if it wasn't for him, I would not have watched 2 sci-fi topics today. Aside from Terminator Zero, which I only watched 3 episodes, we watched Rise of the Automatons from 1931, an AI produced. Is that on the script as well as the visuals?
I'm not sure about the script, but certainly the visuals were all AI generated. You could tell. But yeah, it's called Rise of the Automatons, 1931, the Palmer Land Expedition. God, I can't even say that word. If you do a YouTube search on that, you'll pull it up. It's not short; it's like 27 minutes or something. I'd already watched like the first 10 minutes or so, got into the guts of it, and then I was showing these guys while we were waiting patiently.
Awesome. Very, very unnerving, by the way. Um, so yeah, interesting watch.
Yeah, check it out.
And that is
alternate history.
Yeah,
which kind of fits in well with the topic that we're covering today. Really,
definitely. So I guess that's it for me.
Yeah. What about you, Chaos? You're
Chaos.
muted.
He's followed us.
He's muted.
This
He's
stream.
definitely muted. It's
You're
interesting.
muted.
For all of you out there who don't follow YouTube, you guys should follow YouTube
It was just to see if you guys were paying attention. I'm always ahead of the game.
this is so funny. You see Chaos talking like really passionate, but we hear nothing.
It's just it. It's just a fucked up thing that he's not saying something passionate. I was saying I have not watched anything worthy of mention sci-fi this week, really.
That is so strange for you because you normally watch. I've watched The Matrix for the 137th time and Lord of the Rings and this and that.
Yeah.
No, I think I just finished, but it's on sci-fi. You know, we're a bunch of otakus now. Thanks to somebody here.
Yeah.
I just finished doing a rewatch of the Rise of the Shield Hero, which I really like, and I think that there's something coming up soon. And
Yeah.
I finished ReZero too. And I am in between trying to read the light novel, but it's like I feel burnt out from the story, so I haven't started.
Well,
And
congratulations for
getting to finish the book.
Congratulations for getting through ReZero again, because I remember that certain parts of that anime were very painful because it just kept repeating.
The light novel is so much better, man. It's like so rich and full of scenery and like events, things that you never see on the anime.
All right, well, I might have to check it out.
Which is why you should go and read certain book, Robert.
Yeah.
I want.
Hey, he's got some time off soon. Maybe he'll do some reading.
There you go. You should suffer the foot, Robert. Get ready for reading. You're gonna enjoy it though.
I got a vacation. Yeah.
You're gonna enjoy it, man. I think that you will finish. I finished it in how long? The last 4 chapters? 2 days? 3 days?
Yeah, it was quick.
Like I think I did 2 in one night. But I mean, it's so good, Robert. I promise you, man. There's no waste in there. You should go and check it out.
Cool.
What about you, Angelus? What have you been watching?
Peer pressure.
It's not what I've been watching, but what I've been playing. Because on my days off, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, nice.
Good old Western.
I think that.
Well, I'm actually the guy that watched lots of sci-fi this week, just for a change. Because normally I'm just watching like anime. Well, most of these are anime.
Angelus was that kid that hit the piñata before the birthday started, right? Like here, not sci-fi. The funny thing I must say about Red Dead Redemption, I play them both. I do own a digital copy of Red Dead Redemption 2, and I think it's like one of a kind. Like I don't think that there's gonna be many, if any, games like it soon enough. And it's very complete and nice to do. Like you can do virtually anything with your friends online. It's crazy how well made that game is.
Okay, now for the guy that actually watched sci-fi.
Yeah, me. So, bit of a sad week
sci-fi,
because
he reads sci-fi, he eats sci-fi.
Hey, that's us normally, right? It's just we had an off week.
Yeah.
So don't forget anime.
How could I forget anime? Yes, I am 1% cyborg, so there you go. My life counts as sci-fi. There you go. Anyway, it was a bit of a sad week because a couple of anime that I've been following were finishing up with their final episodes this week. The first one was My Wife Has No Emotion, which it wasn't a super satisfying ending, but it was vaguely satisfying. He introduced his robotic wife to his parents and they were accepting. And then his sister melted down because she didn't get to see it. And they really liked Mamoru, which Mamoru's a little robot that
it's like a
picked up the programming of his robot wife, and so basically became their son. The parents loved Mamoru so much that they got one of their own, but it didn't act like Mamoru when they were.
And he has a thick voice, and it's called John.
Yeah, his name's John.
And Mamoru's like this cutie.
and they were all like, "Oh, not as advertised." But no, Mamoru is a one of a kind, which is nice. So yeah, it was mostly a satisfying ending. The other one that ended was A Nobody's Way Up to an Exploration Hero, which is one of those, oh look, for no apparent reason, dungeons have appeared and people are going into them to explore them, and they're going to fight monsters and stuff, but they have technological shit to help them, like guns powered by soul cores that come out of the monsters and shit like that. So it's an interesting one, and that one finished up as well, which was vaguely satisfying. I hope that there's a second season for that one because it looks like it's got a lot of legs on it. The other anime that I've been watching is an older one called World Trigger, which is sort of technological with an alternate reality bent to it. So it does count as sci-fi, but it's also a comedy, so it gets a bit ridiculous. But I don't mind World Trigger too much. It's actually on Netflix, and it's the only place where you can actually get it with an English dub. The English dubs are otherwise very hard to find. They don't have it on Crunchyroll. So if you want to watch World Trigger, watch it on Netflix.
The question is World Trigger scientific-y?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd have to say it is.
Just want to make sure.
They're trying to defend Tokyo from invaders from another reality.
Nice.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it is scientific. And I watched a couple of things on, well, when I say watched, they're actually sci-fi stories, which are sort of read to you by AI, which happens a lot these days. The first one is called Alien Trapped on a Death World Called Earth. Hell for Aliens, Paradise for Humans, which is a sci-fi HFY story. I thought that one was quite interesting. It's the old sexy blue alien comes to Earth and gets helped out by a guy who's a emotional sniper, but she's actually an emotion vampire. She feeds on emotions, and he's trying to be unemotional, but she manages to break down his walls, and they get together. And yeah, interesting that they're biologically compatible, seeing she's an alien. But anyway, stepping around that landmine. And of course, I showed you guys Rise of the Automatons 1931, which is a follow-up to the Automaton Wars of 1913, which I mentioned a couple of episodes ago. So that's another alternate history AI-generated short movie. It's like 27 minutes long. I found it quite interesting, and the voice that reads the story that goes vaguely with the video that's shown is very similar to the voice from War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
If you've ever listened to that album, back when things were on vinyl, there was an album called War of the Worlds, which everybody would recognize the music to if they're into sci-fi. And that's a fantastic little piece of sci-fi history. But the guy who reads that sounds very similar to the guy who reads this one, so it's a bit of a throwback there. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, so lots of sci-fi for me this week, just for a change.
Nice.
And of course, the IP that we're covering today, which I blasted through last night, and just like, you were right, Angelus, I couldn't stop. There was no breaks right to the end.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I'll be watching it with my wife, because my wife is a real big fan of the Terminator franchise. So after the show, we're definitely going to sit down and watch this. So, yep, I'm going to be watching it from the beginning again.
Cool.
Okay, so should we move on to the next segment?
I got one question for Ray. Did you watch My Wife Has No Emotions with your wife?
No, my wife hates animation, which is very strange, seeing I'm an anime otaku. These things happen.
I don't know. I strongly believe that there's an anime for anybody.
For what?
For anybody, you just have to find that interest.
For sure.
But you see, my wife would have to watch the live action because she doesn't like animation.
That's the crazy biggest misconception that we grew up with. I grew up listening to like anime for kids. Oh
Yeah.
hell no! I'm not letting my kids watch that twisted. Hell no! I love it though.
Okay.
School days, anybody?
All for kids.
So let's move on to the next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
And for all of you out there, if you are new to the show, this is a segment where we feature the hashtag, This is Sci-Fi. And what is the reason for the hashtag is to promote collaboration, to promote cross-conversation across multiple sci-fi IPs. This is something that I really, really enjoy. And it actually gives a way for fans to talk not only to like-minded individuals who like the IP that they love, but also to kind of share their passion with other sci-fi fans that might not even heard of the stuff you're talking about, or maybe they somehow don't want to, and they hear a different perspective. If you hear this show long enough, you know that I am all for perspectives. They're hearing a different perspective on something I really enjoy. So if you are a fan, whatever post you do for sci-fi, all you gotta do is add the hashtag "This is Sci-Fi" to the end of it. If you're a creator, that baby that you created, that sci-fi love, just whenever you post, add the hashtag "This is Sci-Fi." And let's talk about it. Let's share. Let's hear each other's passion for the sci-fi that we love. And I mean, you can start new conversations with someone who might be interested because they see by reading your post the passion that you have on that thing you love so much, or that thing that you created. And they're either interested on getting some new sci-fi, which, by the way, I mean, we do have so much sci-fi lately, but when you finish the thing you love, there's always that empty space that you want to fill, and it's a great way to discover new things. Or if you are talking about that thing you love, you are definitely going to find those like-minded individuals who actually love the stuff you like. So you can spark a new conversation about the stuff you love with someone new. So I encourage everybody to not only follow the hashtag in any of the socials, but also, just post with the hashtag "This is Sci-Fi" for any sci-fi post that you do. As you know, if you follow the hashtag, I post a lot of scientific posts in there.
Not only that, but I also like to post stuff that I just like. Doesn't have to be something an article scientific, a scientific article, you know. But you can use it like for anything that is sci-fi related that you love. If you want to find cool conversations like I have in the past, it's just where good, like amazing worlds collide. That's it.
Yes. Bringing the sci-fi community together across IPs.
And honestly, there's no better feeling than finding somebody that loves an IP as much as you do.
Yes.
It's like finding a long lost family member, bro. It's hard. You're fucking with us, Ray. You're lucky we're otakus.
I created you that way.
So anything that you guys like to add to the This is Sci-Fi? I don't know if you guys had any interactions lately or anything you want to bring up before I move on to.
I
Bro,
was just going to mention
didn't watch
sci-fi
anything
now.
that I was in the This is Sci-Fi hashtag this week.
I was just going to mention sci-fi-now.co.uk, which sounds like something that would be really full of sci-fi, but it's science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And the fantasy and horror seems to get the front seat, and sci-fi seems like the red-headed stepchild. So it's kind of weird that the thing's called sci-fi now, and yet sci-fi gets the least coverage, which doesn't really work for me, but oh well. Them's the breaks.
Interesting.
But yeah, the interesting one that I saw here, the Mousetrap Mickey Mouse horror movie out this October. So
Get bloody to watch that.
I'll be sure not to check it out.
Oh wow. We have other ways that you can share. You can join our Discord and let's talk sci-fi. You can. We have a couple of This is Sci-Fi chats in socials that if you're interested, just reach out to me and I can link you in. And of course, we have our hotline where you can send us your message about that IP you love, the IP you created, any passion that you have with the with any IP that is sci-fi related. The number is 1-305-563-6334. Again, 305-563-6334. And robot overlords will be sending back. We'll take like chaos.
Well, the robot overlords, you can't be taking over the world all the time, so they need a side gig. So
Yes.
it's really fun.
Definitely. Okay. I guess we can move on to the next segment.
Yeah.
And for the shout outs, I'll be quick but to the point. Want to give a special welcome to Treja Midcalf. Welcome to our Instagram page. We hope that you like what we have in there for you and what we're going to continue to put in there. Next, we're having YouTube 2 subscribers. One of them, I actually know him. We have Lloyd Gray and Adrian Hauhey. Welcome to the team, guys. I hope that you like what we have in YouTube. If you got requests or anything, we'll talk about our social medias as we go on the episode, but go and check us out. We are very active on social media and we like to participate with our community. Here is a friend of ours, actually, that we love so much, and finally we could get him. Yes, this is gonna be fun, guys. And that's it, Robert.
Did I throw you off?
No, unfortunately, man.
Man, I was trying. I've been trying for the entire season 2.
I live on a constant thrown off.
It doesn't work. I'm giving up.
Unflappable, I believe the term is.
Okay, so I think the next segment is coming on, and we're going to do something different for this episode. Very different. Do we know what that segment is? And I'm going to help you. The segment is
the Alita Army News.
It's Christmas time now, so he does ho ho ho.
Now, is this like recorded on audio as well as obviously visual as well?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's on stream. It's only recorded. So this video is gonna come out 1 month from now, I think, or so.
a month. A month
Oh,
after
yep.
release is on audio. Yes.
The audio is gonna be soon, a week or two.
All right, because there is one picture that I wanted to share as a bit of a precursor. But recently, when it comes to Alita Army News specifically, we had one of our very own Hunter Warriors go down to Pasadena to see Rosa Salazar play in a theater performance.
Hunter Warrior is like your commanders or bishops in the Elite Army.
I guess in a way we don't really have a ranking. We just have
That's pretty cool, though.
the commander in chief, which is Alita, and then the rest of us, which is just
You guys can have all the
Warriors.
Hunter Warriors that you want. I'll be your Sapan guys.
I'm apparently the Pope, but I don't know how that works.
I guess you could have whatever the equivalent for nicknames is in ranks, because I guess we all have our own sort of strengths.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah. But recently, Creaky went down to as in one other called Charlie Schmidt went down to Pasadena to go watch it. And I'll go to select window, entire screen, and just momentarily I'll do that one. Creaky got up close and personal with Rosa Salazar herself.
Nice.
Nice.
And
Jelly much, Angelus?
He is green with envy.
Yeah.
He's gonna probably cut that one off, put it on a glass box, and hang it on his living room.
Creaky can die happy now.
I'm 1% jealous because I'm 99% happy. Get it? 99.
99. Yeah.
But yeah, and while I've been sort of even given the short version of the updates, when we go on our own live streams, Creaky will be making X posts and stuff like that. Because obviously he took more than one photo. Lots were discussed, and let's just say either she has been given permission or she has not been signed under an NDA yet, because she had quite a bit to say about the Elite sequels.
Oh.
But if you want to find out more, like I said, you just have to keep an eye out for that reveal, if you will. So, yes.
You see, guys, so this is one of those things where I'm gonna talk about something you really, really want to know, but I don't tell you.
Mostly
waiting for him to say it.
Yeah, but that's
mainly because we wanted Creaky to be the one to, I guess, kick things off, and then we just amplify it.
With you, bro.
So, Angelus, is he announcing that on the Leader stream on Friday night or the Radio Chaos stream on Saturday night?
I believe Radio Chaos, but if he
Well, if you want to find out those deets, you need to join the Elite Army channel on YouTube. So we'd love a few more subscribers. So if you want to find out, go over there and check it out.
And if you haven't, there it is. Go right now to the link on the. Oh, it's not coming. The link is it? Oh yeah, it's there in the corner. In the corner there. So you go and scan that QR code over there if you're watching the video, and please subscribe. It's awesome, and they are just as welcoming as us. So you can even join on the episodes and talk about all the stuff that you love about Alita.
Yes.
Well, basically, 50% of the people here are also hosts on the Radio Chaos live stream. So,
or how Ray likes to say, their requirement bar is very low.
Well, it is.
I was going to say 100% of everybody here is part of the Elite Army. So,
this is true too.
So, yes, basically, like I said, Creaky's taken a lot more photos / selfies. He has a lot more information to reveal, but like I said, we'll let him post about that, and then just keep an eye out for the hashtags and the various accounts, because I'm sure both Gio and Robert will pick up on it as well. And if you just follow them, then you'll see them sort of post and comment and reply about it, so that once it gets revealed, it'll go maybe not viral, but it'll definitely go worldwide. So, and like only reason why I revealed this particular photo is to show that like yes, like Gio alluded to before, it's like I'm going to tell you something about that I can't talk about, sort of thing. It's happening. It's coming. Keep an eye out for it.
Oh,
stay. Ray will know what I'm talking about, but stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I think by the time this episode drops, it'll already be out. But you can still go and check it out.
Yeah.
You know the saying? I said it's killing me. Well, waiting for the sequel killed me, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I wonder if Creaky will ever wash his left hand again after wrapping it.
Oh no, he's gonna probably next time you see Creaky, he's gonna have an amputated arm, and you just gotta ask him to show you where he hanged that arm.
Put it in a glass case.
I don't think that's not that's the only thing he's not going to wipe clean ever again. If you saw the other picture.
There you have.
Which is also in chat.
Is that the one when he was kissing her? She was kissing him on the cheek.
Yep.
I thought so. Oh dear.
Nice.
Star
Well,
power.
if you have not followed the YouTube for the Elite Army, I invite you guys to pause us right now. Go into YouTube. Just go ahead and search it and subscribe.
Alita needs you for a sequel.
Yes, please.
We can see why he's keeping that one back for later.
I personally want a TV show with 24 seasons. So yeah, there you go.
Is that all?
Yeah.
If you think that there's no such a thing as too much, you just gotta ask Robert.
Nah, I don't ask for much.
It'll make you believe that he's okay.
I don't ask.
I'd be happy if there was the same number of episodes of an Elita show as there is of Star Trek. All of them.
Yeah.
I lost all hope with Cowboy Bebop when I saw What a Good Show and they just canceled that anyways.
Well, the world is so rich that you could have, an expanded universe like you have in Star Trek.
Easily.
Very, very easy. Okay.
I'm talking about stuff that was made and that's it, not stuff that is gonna be making when the 10th generation of robbers still live.
A whole generation of happy endings. Does that scare you?
When did Star Trek start?
Does that scare you?
67.
Okay. So I think I'm not ready for the main event here.
What do you mean?
Let me explain why. If you guys follow the show, what happens every time we have Angelus on this episode?
Something goes wrong.
Well, the episode or the movie,
Get up a notch.
Whatever it is that I'm watching, is not Robert safe.
Oh.
Now
He's a picky washer, Angelus.
Here's why I'm scared. Right? I only watched 3 episodes of this thing.
Oh. So you haven't seen the 7 different slaughters yet.
So I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared because having Angelus' track record, that's so.
Well, during this show, 6.5 billion people die. So
yes,
it's not on screen so much, but they do.
Out of sight, out of mind, much.
Well, the nuclear fireballs are kind of obvious.
So before we get into it, do we have a plot that we can,
Well, funny you should say that because I've hunted
the moment where you
hunted.
say, "I'll be back with the plot."
I've hunted around for decent coverages of the episodes, and all I can find is like one line for each episode. They really haven't gone into much depth. But admittedly, this is pretty new, so that might be the reason. I can give you what I've got.
Right, Robert? I think that they heard the complaint from Star Trek. That was like a whole book for one episode.
But on all fairness, I think Ray is right. This is a new show, so I mean, time will tell. But I'm sure the plot for each episode are just going to grow.
Okay.
I mean, they don't even call it a plot; they call it a premise. So they haven't gone very deep into it.
Like an apartment studio of a plot.
Basically. In 1997 Tokyo, Malcolm Lee is developing Kuroko, an AI system intended to compete with Skynet. The day before Judgment Day, Lee finds himself and his 3 children pursued by an unknown robot assassin, and a mysterious soldier from the year 2022 has been sent to protect him.
He's not part of the elite army.
It sounds very much like the proper Terminator 1 with a different target. So yeah, now the issue as it stands is the 2 of us have watched the entire thing and are like champing at the bit to talk about it, and 2 of us have watched 3 episodes because they couldn't get their shit organized. So, I mean, admit it, they're like roughly 20-minute episodes.
Yes.
So if you multiply 20 by 8, you get 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is less length than June 2.
Anything is less than
it's short. The whole series is shorter than June 2, and yet all they could manage was
Lord of the Ring extended version is shorter than Dune 2.
Is it? It's like 13 hours, dude. I've watched it. 13 hours versus 3 hours and 2 minutes. Come on.
Don't get me wrong. I'm happy with Dune 2.
Oh, so Avatar 2 is a little bit longer.
It's interesting when they do the change because the sisters showed up too early, but it looks good.
I guess if you guys have seen like all of the other Terminator sequels, reboots, reimaginings, then some of the plot points have been borrowed, elaborated on, glossed over, that sort of thing. As we'll discuss later on in the episode, like there are elements of the most recent movie, which is, I guess, in the timeline of things, is Dark Fate. There's a lot of like there's a this is technically a spoiler, but I won't say how. There is element from Terminator 2 Judgment Day in there as well. In fact, there's a couple of elements that they've borrowed from Judgment Day. So, it's starting to become a not so unique, but still a very welcome way of paying homage to the source material, if you will, while still obviously telling their own story, because obviously a new element of the new AI, for example, has been introduced. And I believe they, in episode 6, they tap into their world's theory on time travel.
Nice.
I was just going to say before we go off for that point, basically how they can do all these reimaginings and different timelines and things is because the way they describe time travel is every time somebody's sent from the future back to the past, it creates a new timeline. So they can write a new story and the events are different and it doesn't collide or affect the other stories because they're in different timelines. So basically they can keep making Terminator movies until the cows come home because every time they want to tell another story, it's just another timeline. It's kind of like a really drunk, stumbling around version of Steins Gate.
Oh my God.
And we have covered Steins Gate. If you're wondering what Steins Gate is, it's another time travel with timeline story, which is an anime. Check it out. It is fantastic.
It's awesome.
I think it holds together way better than the Terminator series, actually, but it's not as iconic, obviously.
Yeah. One thing I can tell you, it's and again, my perspective is different from, well, at least let me rephrase this. Gio's and my perspectives are going to be slightly different than Ray's and Angelus here, because we only watched 3 episodes. I really like the visuals It's and I don't know if you got this. I mean, my perspective. I've
Mhm.
seen enough anime to actually make this comment. What I said, this is not your typical artwork, and
Oh,
I
definitely not.
really like it.
You
Um,
know, you know what reminded me, and it was very short though. The
mm,
episode of the secret agents in Black Mirror that they are fighting a grizzly bear that is mechanic, and they keep on calling the shit a badger, honey badger. Remember that episode? The animation reminded me of that, to be
yeah,
specific.
and this is clearly an anime. It's done. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, just look at the names, right? Which is another perspective that I really enjoy. Kind of like migrating this from the point of view of an anime. But the story, I mean, the story, like Ray alluded to that, it's pretty much Terminator because all they got to do is just tell the different story every time someone goes to the past.
Yep.
But I really enjoy how he felt the aesthetics of this
Mm.
so far. I like to think the aesthetics continues all the way to the end because that
Oh
depends.
yeah, it does.
It's actually the artist who is creating this, but you know the how they play with the music, how the animation style, it's so apart yet close to what anime is, and
Hmm.
I enjoy this because it's very refreshing. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, um,
Absolutely.
especially you know, let me say otakus like us that watch so many animes. I really appreciate when I watch something that is that set apart from the rest.
I think that where you're going, Robert, is you guys might agree with me actually on this, but in the past years, you would not see such a great variety of art styles when you were seeing anime. There were maybe top five, you know,
Mhm.
but they look very similar. But now it's like every anime is just a new platform for the artists to excel at their own style, and it makes it more interesting.
It's very, very refreshing. I mean, you have a perfect example, Ray, when we cover the episode uh, and it trap in a dating sim.
Mm.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
Precisely.
I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah. No, certainly the art style in a lot of animes these days are quite cutesy with the big eyes and everybody's pretty and so forth and so on. And then that's on sort of the cutesy end of the scale. And then you can go all the way down to the gritty end of the scale, like Akira. And this show is sort of back a bit from that end of the scale. It's back towards the middle. And I was noticing the sort of the Western elements were more sort of Western with smaller eyes, but then the kids who are half Japanese, they had the larger eyes, and certainly now what was her name? I keep forgetting. Misaki had the big anime eyes, but Malcolm Lee didn't because he was Western.
Mm.
Or at least half Western. I think he's half Japanese. I think he's half Japanese, half Afro American. It was interesting how they adjusted the art style based on where the characters were from and where the elements were from. So certainly the Terminator had a more realistic art style and looked very much like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the build, but in the facial features, he was more Japanese,
Yes.
which,
Oh, you got to
like
remember, anime characters are supposed to look like cats too, not like
yeah,
people.
exactly. But the Terminator was this weird amalgam. It had Arnold Schwarzenegger's body and a Japanese man's head, and the two things didn't work well together, but that was deliberate, I think, because it was just Skynet's attempt to make someone look Japanese. But really, being a Terminator, you don't really need a massive body because you're a machine underneath. So whether you're a bigger machine or a slightly smaller machine, it would have no impact on the abilities of the machine to function, because a slightly smaller piston is still going to have the strength of a piston. It's not going to have the strength of the muscle surrounding it. So I found that a bit of a weird choice, that if you were trying to portray yourself as a Japanese person to be, 6'2" and massive, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, was a bit doopy, but then an AI wouldn't get that. So an AI would do something doopy like that. So it kind of worked in a way that it wasn't working, if you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I thought that the choices to make it Terminator-ish, but trying to make it look Japanese as well.
In the anime, instead of get to the chopper, he says, get to the dojo.
Get to the Toyota. There was a lot of Toyotas being driven around. It was 97, so
No, I love the McDonald's restaurants, but it's a W.
Yeah, they always flip it up the other way.
McDonald's.
When it comes to anime styles, I just had an epiphany, and I was doing a Google search, and the animation styles itself is very similar to another sci-fi that I know at least Maxi has watched, and possibly you guys as well, but Robotech Shadow Chronicles.
Robotech.
Oh, yes.
But I think Robert has maybe.
I see Robotech, but yes.
I think my friend Bree has watched Robotech for sure, or played it.
Actually,
right?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just switching between the two tabs now, and the animation itself is like, considering how far apart these two, I guess, movies/series is, it's very quite similar. Yeah.
Well, Robotech's an abomination created by Harmony Gold out of 3 different series from Japan, which they redid the story on and made it completely different from what the original was. So Robotech, by calling it Robotech, you're giving a reference to English speaking audiences, but the original was actually Macross, which was the first part. I'm not sure what the name of the other 2 series was, because
Is it Macross formulas that you use in Excel?
Not macros, Macross.
Macross. Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess I answered and skipped the question. The question that I just answered at the beginning of this is the normal question that we ask at the beginning.
Today is old.
How old were you, and what was your first impression? And that was my answer. Can we go around the room and I don't know, maybe we should go, starting with Chaos, since me and Chaos watched only 3 episodes, and it was
the room. Be right back then.
He's out of here.
He's gone. That was my answer. I really enjoyed the uniqueness of it. Still, that doesn't take away from the fact that I know Angelus' track record, and I'm afraid of the ending, but I'm going to continue.
Hey, that means I'm gonna be pleased.
Gio, before we let the veterans here, the ones who actually watched the entire thing here, go, you want to give your first impressions on what you thought?
I mean, I love it. I think that was about time, because it's such an iconic sci-fi topic, IP, and it's 2024. Now we're getting it. It's like the Lord of the Ring. We're getting a Rohirrim war arc anime. And I'm like, why we don't have anime from things like this that we love so much?
Yeah,
are bound to be successful,
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm excited for it. This could be the beginning of a lot of other things. Look at the one that Ray showed us. That I don't know why they haven't done something more complete like this with the alien. The episode that you showed me, the artist that did it all by himself, like in several years. Like, why they haven't done an anime of it? They even done animes about Dead Space, which is just a video game, and it has apparently comics. just like Gears of War, the same thing has comics. So why did not do the animation? Because it's gonna be super successful. It's such an exciting IP, and if you play, I mean, being able to play something that you enjoy watching, it's like being able to immerse yourself in that universe. I think that that's the ultimate experience, in my opinion. So now we're just missing the game, right?
Yes. Nice. Okay, so I don't know. You guys can take turns. What was your? And this is
My answer has left Robert confused.
the very first time you guys watched this. What was your first impression? And that's assuming that you haven't watched it multiple times since.
You can go first, Angelus. It was your pick.
All right. Well, my first reaction was to jump on Discord and tell you guys that I wanted to do an episode on it, and
Take
then
note,
nearly
viewers.
and,
Take note. That's what you got to do.
and then nearly miss out on said episode. But I have an excuse for that. Long story short, I had a really long working week last week, and as a result of that, my body was still catching up in sleep. That's why I didn't even show up for the
That's
Alita
not the
Army
week,
one.
man. That's called hate.
But anyway, back to my answer. So that's the first thing I did. But and as a precursor, is it something that a leader taught me, or being a fan of a leader has taught me, is that never jump the gun when it comes to something new. Always sort of like hold back. Look at reviews from both sides, people that are fans, people that are not fans, and try to be objective as possible. Look at all the teasers and trailers and stuff like that. And I did all that with this one. And, I'm still like, if I had a choice between a second season of this and a second season of like, oh, it's just, I've had a mind blank. Black Lotus. I'd probably still lean towards Black Lotus, but that doesn't mean that I don't love this one either, because it's an iconic iconic IP. But anyway, so yeah, if there's one thing the leader taught me, it's never jump the gun. And I think, it would have been after the second episode. That's when I started. That was when the first bite happened. Now, what happens with me is that that bite refers to like my penchant for just binge watching everything. Like I said, I got the first bite after episode 2, and then once episode 3 finished, it's like it just started an avalanche of, and I like every quiet moment during work, because there'd be quiet moments and busy periods of time. Every quiet moment, I'd have the episode playing in the background, and like my shifts are 12 hours long, so I might be able to get through 1 or 2 episodes every shift, and then continue on with another 2 or 3 episodes when I got home. So I finished it in quite a few days, and working days as well. And yeah, I was like pleasantly surprised, pleasantly impressed. I loved the like the various nods that it gives to like all of the Terminator movies that it had. Like like I said, it does give a few nods to Dark Fate, Genesis, a few nods to Judgment Day. In fact, Ray already alluded to one of them in the, having your face melted off by nuclear blast. Now, I think that in Judgment Day, that was like part of an extended, no, not extended scene, deleted scene or something like that. But
Deleted
or
scene.
actually, maybe it did make it in movie. What in Judgment Day, wasn't there one where Sarah was like beating against the fence, and then all of a sudden
Yes.
the thinger, and then she was
Yeah.
like fried at
Yes.
the thinger?
Yeah.
Yeah, so something similar happens in that series as well. I think more than once. So like I said, there's nods from almost all of the Terminator series. And yeah, I just was pleasantly surprised. So essentially, I started watching it a week after it was released.
Bless you.
And even though it took me a week to get it started, it only took me a few days to finish. So yeah, that's basically my answer.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that these kind of animes that are inspired on a very famous IP are the perfect arena for expanding ideas and give the fans an infinitude more on that universe. That's what it makes it so much more lovable too, in my opinion.
It is so easy to do it on his IP though,
Mhm.
because I mean, you know, fans want more. I kind of alluded to this in the pre-show, but for all you other who don't know, my wife is a huge fan of Terminator. We actually watched the entire, you know, thing, all the movies, everything that was available, and I distinctly remember when we were done, my wife saying, "Okay, find me the next one," and me telling her the bad news. There's no more.
And you can tell that Robert has been watching all of them because he's starting to sound a little bit like Arnold, actually.
So this, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this is another avenue where you can give fans more of that IP. You know, I like to think it's easier to make because, well, maybe the technical word would be cheaper to make. Because all you have to rely on is paying voice actors and animators to do this instead of like the big budgets that you would have to have on a movie or a TV show. So this would be a great avenue to provide more content of that
You
IP.
need writers and directors and stuff too. You know?
Yeah, no, I know, but the point is like
one-man job, like the one from Aliens.
What I was more relating, talking
Alluding to.
about was just the big budget that involves the filming, the actual live action filming, in contrast to an animation like this one. So and this coming from me, right? If you have listened to the show long enough, you know that I am that guy that wants a sequel for most of the stuff that you guys don't want a sequel for. So
I want a Starfighter sequel.
I'm sorry?
I want a Last Starfighter sequel.
Yeah, that would be one
Don't
way.
dream on that one, bro.
I know. They tried for years. It didn't happen.
Yeah, I know. By now, it's sure ain't gonna happen.
I want an Edge of Tomorrow sequel.
If we are 25 years from here talking about Alita sequel too, I will tell you the same thing.
Everyone knows I want an Alita sequel. I don't need to respond to that.
Hope is the last thing that we'll lose, but we'll still lose it.
Okay, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Like I said earlier, I am definitely going to finish watching it. Not only because I really enjoyed it, but because, as I said, my wife is hungry for Terminator content, and this is a new one. So I actually had good news for her when I said, "Guess what I'm watching? There's one more thing you can watch on the Terminator." So she mentioned, "Yeah, I'm definitely watching it." So I guess we can go into I don't know if we should start with the first 3 episodes and then move on to you guys to watch the entire.
Robert, you haven't let me do my first take on it yet.
Go ahead.
You forgot about me.
No, I mean,
you forget about me.
What about me?
That's right.
It isn't fair.
Have you swapped Angelus out for me? Have you swapped me out for Angelus in your head?
Okay, Ray, you're special, just like every single other person.
You only get one Australian per show, so I'm out. that how it works?
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So I'm echoing some things that have been said and expanding upon them. Yes, this show is greatly atmospheric. It really does give a great rendition of the Terminator franchise. It's a worthy successor to everything that's come before. In fact, I think it's probably a better story than some of the later movies in the movie franchise. I can't say much about the TV series with Summer Gal. I think that's her name. Who was a Terminator in that? Because I haven't seen that TV series, but I've seen all the movies. So I've got a fairly good take on what the franchise is about. And I do feel that this outing was very much in line with the storytelling from the other franchises. It was very atmospheric. It felt Terminator-y. Is that a word? Terminator-y? Is it kind of like scientific-y?
We can make it a word.
Okay, we'll make that a word. Terminator-y. While it was well sort of entrenched in the Terminator lore and the vibe, it was a whole nother perspective. And I'm comparing it, this is sort of meta level stuff, but I'm comparing it to Star Wars Visions. If you guys remember that one. We haven't covered Star Wars Visions. We probably should.
Yes.
So if for those not in the know, Star Wars Visions there was 2 seasons. And it's kind of like Love, Death and Robots, which we have covered a number of episodes of shows from that series. But it's an anthology series of Star Wars stories created in animation. So it's basically Star Wars anime. But it wasn't just created by Japanese animators, but it was
the closest thing I can compare it to, Ray, is Halo Legends Animatrix, which is compiled stories from different artists.
Yeah, it is very, very much like Animatrix, but rather than being vignettes, it's a continual story arc.
Oh, more like Halo Wars, Halo Legends. Sorry.
Yeah, but I do feel like it's really interesting to get another take on a well-grounded, well-explored franchise like Terminator, and they've got the perfect justification in that anytime you send somebody back in time, it creates a new timeline, so things are going to be different, and people leave one timeline and show up in the new timeline that has broken off from the original where they came from the moment they appear in the past, which is kind of like what was happening with Back to the Future as well. But it makes sense in a sort of a temporal justification way, so you don't get paradoxes. Rather than creating paradoxes, you just create a new timeline where things are now going to be different. Which I refer back to Steins Gate talking about timelines.
What comes to mind is ReZero.
Yeah, somewhat. ReZero is similar, but it's not quite the same. But really, I think that this was a very good attempt at a Terminator story. It hung together quite well to a point. Obviously, from what you see even in the first couple of episodes which you guys saw, the world is a bit different from the one that we knew in 1997, in that robotics technology was much further advanced than it even is in our 2024, compared to what I remember from 1997. In 1999, I had a Furby, and we thought that was pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years after this. But in this one, they already had humanoid robots.
And our version of AI were Tamagotchis.
Yeah.
We have humanoid robots that look like a blender when they fall off and peel off.
Now, here's the question for you, Ray. Here's the question. Are we experiencing this because we are in a timeline where someone went back and retarded the progress? And maybe there is an alternative universe when in August 29, 1997, all of the atomic bombs exploded.
You want me to tell you why is it, Robert? It's because in this version universe, we don't measure things by this washing machines. That's the problem.
Yep, that's where they fell down. Measuring things by washing machines. Everything went downhill after that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm joking around, but I believe, and I mean, I'm I've actually have listened to some scientists explain their version of what they believe to be the multiverse concept. Um, and in my head, and that's I think the reason why I'm such a believer of that is because that actually in my head at least, and again, take this with a grain of salt. I am not a scientist, but in my head, it solves the problem of paradoxes, and it explains a lot. I always thought about too how just like two-dimensional beings can only see what's inside their dimension, we are third-dimensional beings that can only see or understand what is in our dimension. And we're talking about subjects that are cross-dimensional. So it is very possible that we are all connected, but we only see the section, the dimension that is crossing our perspective, our view, and that's why we might see it as multiple dimensions, when in fact is something larger than that. Uh, and it's just very interesting to think about it. Um, and I really enjoy, which I don't know, chicken or the egg, what came first, if it was just a concept that was explored by science fiction, which is one of the reasons why I love science fiction so much, or what I think is the latter, where science fiction writers have actually read some of the papers published about the multiverse and kind of like gave their own perspectives on that idea. But whatever it might be, in my head, it feels like it solves the issue, and it fits very well.
It feels
But
like a what issue? Sorry, I didn't quite catch the word.
well, it feels like it fixes the issue of time travel. It feels.
You mean the issue of time travel, the issue of time paradoxes?
Well, the issue of time travel in my head is paradoxes,
Mhm.
right? So I feel that that solves the issue in general. But then again, that's just my perspective. I mean, there is a debate going, and I heard of some people discuss that they don't believe in the multiverse concept for X or Y reasons. So it is a debatable subject. So again, I'll open it up to you guys who are listening to the show. If you have a different perspective, we welcome you to discuss it on our Discord.
Well, it might be vaguely spoilery. I'm trying not to
Spoil away.
spoil away. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way I understand what's happening is it's an additive effect, right? Now, the timelines that we get to see the story of in the Terminator franchise is not the one we're currently in. The one we're currently in has had no additive effect. There's been no time travel from the future back to the past, so nothing's been added to the technology. You want to clear your throat again, or can I continue?
I
Oh
sense
no, just something I wanted to. I don't know if Ray's picked up on it, but do you know Malcolm's full story? Full story.
Yeah, I've watched the whole thing.
Okay, so wouldn't Malcolm be the? It's going to be a spoiler either way. Wouldn't Malcolm be
No,
the
I'm
additive?
talking about our reality, as in the people speaking right now. I'm
Oh,
not talking
okay.
about the story reality. You are misunderstanding me. So
Okay.
2024, where we are right now,
Yeah.
if Terminator was real, is a reality in which there's been no time travel, nothing's come back from the future and added technology to the past. So we don't have advanced AI. Skynet was never produced. We didn't have a nuclear war in 1997, and we're happy-go-lucky humans overpopulating the planet and being a virus. So that's where
Yep.
we are. You, me, Robert, and Chaos, right? That's our timeline. Now, if you look at the timelines shown in the movie, starting from Terminator 1, this is the first additive effect. The first time a Terminator has traveled back, the first time a human has traveled back. It's the first loop. It's created a new timeline. On that new timeline, which is the story timeline, the technology from that first Terminator ends up at Cyberdyne Systems and helps create Skynet. Right?
Yeah.
So there's been technology added to the timeline from another future. It's shown up, and then that future then moves forward with extra technology. And then every other movie that comes along, there's more technology coming back and more technology coming back. So that's why in 1997 there's humanoid robots running around in Japan, because they have extra technology from the future that we, in our personal timeline that we exist in now, doesn't have. Okay, this is how I view it. So every time somebody comes back, they bring more technology with them or more knowledge, which then adds technology, speeds up technology advancement compared to our timeline.
That could also
Does
help.
that make sense?
Yeah, and that could also help explain why, like at least using the movie universes as an example, why the Terminators stepped it up in, I guess, lethality, if you want to call it that, or technology, or both, really.
Version 800, version 1000, version 10,000. It just
Yeah.
did that. So yeah. So you know, the reason why the technology coming back kept getting better was because the technology position of the new timeline that was created was higher. So the war kept happening, but like Skynet kept coming online and deciding to destroy humanity, but he was at a higher tech level because there was more tech that had come back. So it just kept looping over and over again. Something just happened at my front door. I'll just be back in a second.
So that is I think that is a concept that has been explored in the IP of Star Trek, and I really didn't think about it that way until Ray mentioned it, but it makes a lot of sense. And what I'm talking about is a contamination of the timeline. So that makes a lot of sense. Where every time you send something out, and this is why if you are a Star Trek fan, you notice that whenever they go back in time, and they always they try not to take communicators, or if they do, they gotta be careful to return with them, phasers, stuff like that. Anything from their future. If it's a planned trip, you know that they go and they even alter the way that they look like, and they change their clothes to be close to what the close of the time is, to avoid the timeline.
Yep.
What is your guys' perspective on that? I don't know. It's really interesting that Ray mentioned it, because I really didn't think about that until he mentioned it, and it makes a lot of sense.
I would think that because even though, I mean, the first Terminator we watched with Arnold was in 92. I don't remember.
The first Terminator movie.
Yeah. Was it 92 or 88? I don't remember.
Um,
I'm gonna have to look it up now.
1984.
Well, my point is, I don't even have to look at it. Thank you for that. I don't have to look at it. But my point is, even though that's maybe like 30 something years away from now, but still, I think it's considered contemporary when it comes to where we are as a society and as a whole race evolving, you know? So it didn't require that much preparation where you're going to have to look like Old Town, or more colonial, stuff like that.
And you bring a really good concept, and I don't know how you feel about this in Jealous, but if we look in comparison to all of the Terminator movies or whatever releases, TV shows or whatever, everyone has a different aesthetic. So if we watch, for example, what you just said, Gio, the 1984 the Terminator, the aesthetics we see the way that I see it right now in retrospect, it looks like a very clean era. It
Mhm.
seems an era that hasn't been contaminated by time travel. Obviously, it's the first movie. It is the first in the series of time travels that we see throughout the entire IP. So it makes sense that it would look cleaner when it comes to actual the era because it hasn't had this is the first time that it got contaminated. The timeline got contaminated by travels from the future. How do you feel about that? I mean, it's like I feel like mind blown right now because it's a concept that I really never thought about, but it makes a lot of sense.
For me to something that it didn't occur to me until, funny enough, until Ray said it. But when I compared it to what I'm about to link it up to, it sort of clicked in my head. But it's like a. Let me turn off my alarm clock for a second for my iPhones. All right, cool. When you have a solution, like you get a cup of hot water, you put a tea bag in it. It's no longer hot water; it's a cup of tea. But you want to make it a little bit sweeter, so you make the addition of sugar. 1 teaspoon, give it a swirl, tastes a little bit sweeter, and then you add 2 or 3 sugars, and then eventually you become a diabetic. But yeah, but
Or you can put some tea on your sugar.
Yeah, that's what I do.
but I remember, I don't know if it was like my a high school teacher or someone really smart that's one of my friends, but they said like it no longer is the same solution as it was before. Like it started out that way, but it's just become something completely different, or not. Well, I mean, technically by definition it's different, but it's become something more. And
Who didn't live to those golden times, guys, when you would start a gossip, the cafeteria was watering down the drinks? I went through it.
and
Amen.
and that's how I then link it back up with the whole timeline thing. Now, obviously, the reverse can happen. You can dilute something, add back in more water, but it'll never go back to its original form, like just hot water, unless you distill it.
Mhm.
And God knows how they explain something like that regarding timelines. It's like I don't know. They have to find some way of writing in the total and utter defeat of Skynet or technology, or I don't know. like like for example, when in the scene from the Star Trek movies on how they like came into someone, like when the ship's at warp, when Ed Harris's ship came in, bumped the Enterprise out of warp, sort of thing, and like they'd have to, like, I guess, stop them mid time travel, like the very first time that they ever sent a Terminator back, stop them mid time travel from ever and that's how they sort of distill it down back to hot water again. But would it ever truly be the same as the original, though? That's the question. You know,
It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking, and again, my perspective is different from someone that doesn't believe in the multi universe concept and science. But I was thinking about what if they're able to do that? Exactly what you just mentioned, where maybe they're able to stop it mid travel, where the first Terminator never got in 19 in the movie 1984. Um, and I think about that, and the only thing that comes to mind is that creates a fork, right? So it creates a fork where we have a clean timeline that mirrors what we see in the Terminator movie 1984, when nothing really ever happens. And it's assuming the two events have to happen for this to take effect. Um, Skynet
That's the
failed.
thing. I think that comparison is not really necessary to know the fidelity of the material. It just need to be adjacent to the original source and be good on its content. Really, if you think about it.
Yeah, but what I was talking about was this, right? Let's assume for a minute that we are able to stop mid travel. So the first Terminator never got to the first Terminator 1984. And simultaneously, Skynet fails. No one ever really even sees or hear, and it just fades away and nothing really happens. The question that I had in my mind then was, does that distilled the timeline? Um, uh, Angelus mentioned.
I do have an answer to that, or theory anyway.
I think, in my perspective, it really doesn't change. All that does, it creates another timeline that we have in this world IP, right? Where everything is fine and nothing really happens, but we still have the other timelines where things did happen as we see in the films. And again, the best way that I can explain this, if you guys watch Steins Gate, which is an anime, that this is the best way that I can explain what is in my head right now when it comes to this. So that would be one way to distill it, but you don't distill the issue because the issue still exists in the other timelines. But then again, I'm going to say this multiple times. This is just my perspective, my personal view.
Well, you're the exact same perspective, but explained from a different angle. And it just occurred to me, like just then, but with Ray's additive effect theory, we'll call it that. Eventually, what if the technology got so advanced that we were able to stop the very first time travel back, and we stopped the T-800 from ever trying to kill Sarah?
That's the thing. I think that is very atrocious to try to rewrite history in the greater scheme of things. Like you're putting example, that's a very dangerous game right there.
Well, actually, that's brought up. That's brought up within this show, because Kuroko, the AI that Malcolm's making to try and combat Skynet, it has lots of discussions with Malcolm about the whole situation that they find themselves in, and how dangerous it is to go back and attempt to change the past to affect the future, because basically Malcolm doesn't believe that Skynet understands what it's actually doing. It doesn't believe Skynet understands time travel.
They kind of foreshadow that when they're introducing the AI, how amazing it is, and I can save the world and everything. They sold it over the top, bro.
Yeah.
Well, if they were able to stop that, like I said, the very first Terminator from traveling back, it goes back to the age-old saying of, history is doomed to repeat itself again. Like the reason why this whole, the Skynet was created in the first place was because mankind's, and funnily enough, again, it is addressed in this very series as well, is mankind's destructive nature. Like it kills itself, or we kill each other, sort of thing. We go to war with each other, let alone like an alien species or anything like that. And as in doing so, we develop more efficient ways and more lethal ways of killing each other, to the point where Skynet is created. And if we did stop that very first Terminator from going back, I have no doubt that history will just repeat the whole cycle over again, and it will just start that same loop. Like it will start smaller and then get bigger and bigger as like the additives get added on into the solution, and then when it becomes full circle, comes back to the center again, and then
I really like your perspective in history and how history repeats itself. And as I hear you talk, it's a little scarier because nothing is scarier than Skynet and what we see in those films, right? So
Spanish Inquisition was scarier, probably.
if we are able to stop it, like you mentioned, right? Like let's say forcibly. Let's say we went into battle, we stopped it, and the events that we see, like the atomic bombs and all this stuff, never happen. I venture to say the reason why I mentioned it is scarier is because for the very first reason, the very same reason that you just mentioned, how history is doomed to repeat itself. It's like if that fails, humans have the tendency of creating something worse.
Or they feel like it's all right to normalize it because it happened already and we were able to do it again. That happens too.
So, but do you know where I'm coming from? I mean, this is horrific enough. It didn't work. Let's make something worse.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's also addressed.
They're thinking something better, even though it's worse.
Yeah.
Again, this is also addressed and introduced in the series, but there's in the discussions between Kuroko and Malcolm. Malcolm's always saying, I need more time. Funny you should mention that. I need more time, and it's about time travel. And like he says that because he wants to prove that humanity is worth saving. So like it still technically create a new timeline, but without the additive effect. But if we were to like, again, this is like going even beyond the show now. But if you did stop the first Terminator from traveling back, you just have to. You don't necessarily need to stop it. Just stop it for long enough for humans to learn from their mistakes, which is something that we are. Like, just as we have the propensity to repeat our past mistakes, we also have the propensity to learn from them as well. And then like what I call the hitting the reset button. Like Mother Nature does this a lot. Like, if something goes out of whack, Mother Nature will do something like within its own sphere, sort of thing, do something to reset the balance of nature. And I think that's what I feel Malcolm is trying to prove, even from the very first episode, that humanity is worth saving. And then obviously, sans spoilers, it goes into more detail.
Don't sans spoilers. Spoilers are awesome. Spoilers help you discuss things deeply. Can I throw a whole nother spanner into the works here?
Let's do it. It's time travel.
I love sabotaging things. Look, obviously we haven't covered Sword Art Online Alicization on the pod yet. We've covered the original Sword Art Online, but Alicization is like the third season of that particular anime. And it's got a lot to do with AI as well.
Like 3D
Alicization.
animation.
So you guys who've watched Alicization will remember that they were creating AI from the ground up rather
Is that an
than
anime or animation, Ray? A 3D animation.
it's an anime.
It looks like a 3D animation to me.
What are you
Anyway, let me just get my point across, will you? Jesus. So, Captain Derail. In fact, we should change his name from Chaos to Derail, I think.
It's like
Anyway, so in Alicization, they were growing AI rather than building AI and telling them how to think. They were allowing them to work out how to think for themselves. They were growing them, like people grow from a baby up to a person. They were taking scans of babies' brains and letting them develop themselves. And they're doing the same thing here. Skynet was told how to think. He was told if then else, and he was programmed. And that programming led him to decide very quickly that humanity was a threat and had to be destroyed. So when Malcolm was creating Kuroko, he let her learn how to think for herself rather than telling her how to think. Growing the AI from the ground up, and hopefully would create an AI which didn't think as disastrously as Skynet and would side with the humans and try and defend humanity. Uphill battle. But yes, there's very big parallels between this story and Alicization.
And a smaller parallel between this and iRobot.
Yes. Again, how AI comes into being. Was it programmed by imperfect beings, or was it allowed to develop it in its own way, create its own thought maps?
Now, here's a question, but I don't know if it will lead into the science behind sci-fi. This is sci-fi, but AI created by imperfect beings, does that make it an imperfect AI, though?
Yes.
Yes,
Very perfect AI.
Yes.
I mean, have you seen how weird are the suggestions that AI brings sometimes with image generation? It's something to behold.
Not just that, even text,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
This is how you call it, Robert. The term you taught me, dumb AI.
Yeah.
Really is so far. The moment that image generation AI at least can assimilate what's on the image it's creating, it's gonna be a game changer for sure.
But here's my discussion on that point, right? Let's assume that we're able to create the ultimate AI that has transcended, right? It has become that new entity that thinks, that new entity that is creative, that one thing that everybody's scared of right now, right? Let's assume that we create that. We created that based on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We are imperfect. So
you guys are, not me.
It scares me that a thing that we create could transcend, because what would that tell it to? How do they know? I mean, the only basis of comparison that this new being has is us, and we are imperfect. So, like for example, what Angelus just mentioned, the only thing that could save us basically from something like this in this IP would be an awakening in the human civilization that push us away from making everything into a weapon. And
I mean, we already do that whenever we have a chance.
well, that's what's happening right now. So until we can move away from that, we are not going to be able to stop. I mean, what we just talked about, if we're able to stop Skynet, something worse is going to come back, because humanity, that's what humanity does. If this doesn't work, or if it works, it doesn't matter, works or didn't work, we're going to create something worse. We started with an arrow, and what do we have now? AK-47s.
Yep.
We didn't
Not
start with an
only
arrow. We
that,
started with a rock.
Yes, even worse. Even worse.
The crazy thing is, if you take away the risks and dangers of weaponizing new invention, do you know how far we will be as a society right now?
Yes. Yes. But it's something that is in the human nature. It's unfortunate. And this leads to the conversation that I believe Malcolm and the AI had, and was it in episode 2? And I was siding with the AI.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh my God, this is horrible. Malcolm did say it. He has no good answer for why humanity should be saved.
The series at its core is an exploration of the human condition and the validity of the human race. Now, I've said multiple times that the human race is a blight on the planet Earth. There's way too many of us, and there's nothing that's going to stop.
I'd rather advocate for animal rights. They're nicer than most people.
There's nothing that's going to stop humanity from expanding beyond running out of resources or blowing ourselves up.
That's why we're going to Mars.
So we can just keep expanding.
Planet up.
Yeah. But the whole thing is, in those discussions that Malcolm has with Kuroko about trying to justify humanity's existence, humanity is a thinking extension of the fight for survival. And the fight for survival is not your species against all other species. If you look in nature, you see interspecies conflict on small scale all the time. The males fighting during rutting season to get to impregnate the females. Animals running out of resources and fighting each other to the death so that they've got something to eat. Happens all the time in nature. Mm-hmm. It is natural. And the fact that an AI and a human are arguing about whether humanity is justified in its existence because it has these fighting instincts about surviving is a load of crap, in a biologist, that's me, opinion, because it's part of life. Life is a constant struggle. We may be somewhat separated from it with our technology and our society and our laws and our medicine, but strip away those very thin veils and suddenly we're all fighting to survive again, against each other, against animals, against the world, against viruses, against bacteria, against AI, if they happen to come at us. Fighting to survive is natural. It is normal. We as a human species, at least some of us, are separated from that, but there's lots of places in the world where they're not.
Well, Malcolm did mention that on this conversation, at least on, I think it was in episode 2, or was it episode 3, where he said you basically stripped all that, and we're horrific animals.
But the whole thing is, we are animals. When we can't separate ourselves from that, we have the same selection pressures, somewhat ameliorated by a technology and social structures, but take those away and suddenly we're right back where every other animal is, because that is the reality of life on Earth. And to say that humanity is not worthy of surviving because we are part of the cycle of life on Earth is ridiculous. The fact that we have areas in the world where we don't go on like that is a testament to our society and our technology and our thinking that we can get away from it for 5 minutes. That would be my argument. Don't blow up humanity because of the good little bits that we've created. All that other stuff is just normal and is there, it's Tuesday. It's every Tuesday. The moment you take away our technology, our medicine, and our social structures, that's every day of the week.
To further
get my
raise
argument?
argument, I would add another form of our fight for survival is using, let's use medical, and coming from biological perspective, medical advances. Sometimes our way to survive is like, we get sick, most of us die, except for a select few. And it's like, why didn't this person die, or why didn't this person suffer as much? And we look into how to have preventative medicine, how to have curative medicine. And in a way, I see that as a form of survival, as opposed to how can we kill the source of whatever's causing us to die. So instead of killing the source, we can try to cure it instead in the context of diseases and stuff like that. And that also leads to what Ray said, or referred to when he said, all the good little bits as well. Sometimes we don't always have to fight and develop better weaponry to survive, because sometimes it's nature itself trying to balance it out, and we're trying to, fight against it to survive by coming up with a cure or coming up with a way to prolong a life. Because I think it's, and Ray can correct me on this, but I could have sworn I remember something like the caveman life expectancy was like really, really tiny, and then all of a sudden,
You'd be
we're like,
lucky to reach your 30s.
yeah, and then all of a sudden, like now, granted it's like a few million years later, but now life expectancy on average is like gone from 30 to what, 80 something now for the
It's only
Western world.
been like 150 years for life expectancies to go through the roof. 150, 200 years ago, people weren't expected to live much past their 30s.
And why was that? Because of things like the Black Plague and
diseases, not having good sources of food with vitamins and minerals, not getting enough sunlight. When life is a struggle every single day, and I'm not saying that it isn't for millions of people around the world, but at least some parts of the world, you don't struggle every day. Sure, you have to go and work and do those things, but you don't struggle every single day. And there are parts of the world where you can live a comfortable life. And 150, 200 years ago, that was almost impossible. Just about anywhere you went, you could get a cold and die.
Yeah.
And then
it's only through technological advancement, medical advancement, that that's
the only
changed.
precondition to die is to be alive.
And to link it
Thank
back
you,
to
Captain Obvious.
And to link it back to the main topic, like I said, that's a form of us trying to survive, as opposed
we'll
to
back to the main topic.
Killing each other.
See, I would have enjoyed sitting in that room with Kuroko having this little argument, because I think I would have been pretty bad. And only because I take a different approach. That the fact that she exists at all is a triumph of humanity. That how many people had to come together and put all their knowledge together and all their thoughts together to make her exist in the first place.
Yeah.
And considering
couldn't she be a little grateful for that?
Not to mention the length of time it would have taken to create the AI and compare it to our life expectancy. So we had to have the propensity again to pass on that knowledge. And then similar to the additive effect of going back in time, as we go forward in time, our knowledge grows because we keep on adding to the kitty, if you will, of the well of knowledge.
Well, Kuroko lives in a sea of knowledge. Where did all that knowledge come from? If people were as bad as she was making out and should all die, we never would have shared that knowledge with each other. The fact that the internet exists and you can look up just about anything that you need to know across the entirety of the world's knowledge, that's not, behind an NDA or something like that, then it's amazing that actually exists, that people have shared all of that. width and breadth of human knowledge being shared on the internet is something that makes me think that maybe the Star Trek future could exist, that something that positive could come out of, because humanity's managed to share all that stuff. And all you need is an internet connection to access it.
I wanna add perspective to what you just said, just to add to the conversation, because many of our listeners don't have that perspective, and it's a perspective that I believe each one of us in this show has. So, whenever you have a topic of research, something you wanted to know, could be something that you're curious about, or something that maybe it's a topic of research at school. Maybe you're writing a paper about something. This, back in the 90s, back in the 80s, and I'm just going to point a number at you in the scale of years, right? You would have to go to a library. You would have to spend time going through their decks to find references, to
The
find
Dewey Decimal System was
exactly.
horrible.
You got to find
It wasn't like Google.
how many times you pull up a book, you spend maybe an hour going through it, you realize that's close, but that's not what you're looking for. So then you go back and you pull another book. And eventually you have a collection of books on your table. And now you're going through all the pages to find the information you're looking for.
You want to know what was more frustrating? You find out the book you need, and it's out. Somebody else has already borrowed it. Could you imagine if only one person at a time could look at a website or
Yeah.
look at a reference on the internet or
Now,
PDF?
fast forward to today. Fast forward to today. You get your phone, you open Google, and you said, "What is X?" And in a matter of seconds, you have the answer.
In a
X
matter
is
of
a
seconds,
social
you have
media
40.
platform.
In a matter of seconds, you have 40,000 different answers. Hopefully, most of which on the first page agree with each other. But
For all of us lucky enough to have encyclopedias, I had one at home. They were on the pricey side.
oh yeah,
And the thing
Oh,
that
yes.
frustrates me the most is the fact that you have a complete encyclopedia in your house from A to Z, and you go and look at something and the information is out of date. Now you have to go back and purchase a new encyclopedia. And that is something for someone that has the money to spend. Because again, that was something very pricey, very, very pricey. You couldn't really do purchase. Well, at least I know people that could have bought a new encyclopedia every year. I mean, a complete encyclopedia. I was not one of those people. So I can barely get one, and then just deal with the fact that information was already out of date. Um, Angelus, what was your experience on that? I mean, have you did you ever get an encyclopedia? Were you one of those that lucky enough to go to a library to research a topic?
Well, I grew up in that era, or rather the era of transition where we transitioned from the written form to the electronic form. And yeah, like I do remember borrowing out books. I do remember not returning them either. I do remember having IT classes back in high school where they teach you how on the 486 DX266 was my first computer. I remember. I don't know why I remember that specifically, but anyway.
PS1,
And
PS2 for me.
wow, I feel old. I mean, my first was I think a Commodore 64, but
Yeah, I have one of those at home, and I believe that was the very first computer when I learned how to.
Yeah, I think that's the generation past before me.
That one and the PS1 were the two computers where I learned to code, to program, to actually code programs, and the IBM and on the Commodore 64.
Hmm.
But yeah,
But yeah,
it's I just wanted to put in that perspective there, because we have it good today, where information is readily available at our fingertips, and you don't have to get out of your own couch to get the information you need, and do the research that you need. And even now, and again, this has its faults, don't get me wrong, but we have now what I like to call the dumb AI, where it can help you do the research, right? So you can
be
ask
right back.
questions to this AI,
Even though it's dumb, he can answer questions.
and, and it can help you research. It can say, okay, if this book has the information you're looking for, and you can go on Google, you could actually purchase a digital copy of that book and read it on your phone. You could do the entire research on your phone. And this is something that it fascinates me. And how far has humanity gotten? Yet, in contrast, today you can open up the news and see that we have wars. So, I'm sorry, Ray. I just had to put that in perspective to what you were mentioning, because
No, that's fine.
I believe that some of our audience might want to get a perspective on that and see how good we have it today.
It's not
Oh,
automatic.
yeah. I'm totally on board with all of that.
Who's to say that our grand or great grandchildren won't have it even better, where they, they walk past a historical monument, and all of a sudden, when it detects mere movement, it'll say, 80, 90 years ago, this happened, and like you don't even have to look it up; it'll just spurt it back out, or like automatically, or.
I mean,
Well, I do think that it may have been a little bit early, but things like Google Glass and the one that Microsoft's working on, where you have augmented reality. So you have a pair of glasses that you just look at something and it gives you information on it. It scans what you're looking at, goes off to the internet, finds information of it, and gives you a summary of it. So like you look at a car and it goes, oh, that's a 2024 Lexus, blah, blah, blah. It has this much power. They cost about this much in your area. This is where the dealership is. This is how many stars it gets on the safety rating. You can carry this much stuff in it. It just tells you anything you could possibly want to know about what you're looking at. And that's actually something that I've put in the novel that I'm writing at the moment with the guy's got an internalized AI, which gives him that sort of information. And I think it's something that eventually will be commonplace, that you walk into a venue and there's people there and it'll start telling you who they are and what they do, so you can just start a conversation with them without having to know everything about them. You can just act like you do because you've got information coming at you all the time. And that's when we will be fully integrated with our information, when that sort of equipment is available, that you don't even have to query Google. Google will just feed you everything about everything you look at.
you painted an interesting point, and it raises a question for me. I believe that part of the reason why humanity or civilization, the human civilization, is the way that it is right now, is because uh, lack of external um, perspective. Let me just call it that way, right? I believe, and we have spoke about this many times. Out of sight, out of mind. Something happens. If it doesn't involve you, you usually don't care about. It's a lack of empathy, and I think that's plays a big part in making humanity the way that it is right now. Now, I feel that a future like you mentioned, Ray, where we have a little window into someone else's, gives us a closer perspective. So I fast forward from that point on to a world where, this is something that was alluded to in some sci-fi novels, in some of the companies, like what some of the companies want to do, like the Neuralink, for example, where you fast forward to a future. And I mean, we're talking about, it could be tens of thousands of years into the future, where we are interconnected. There's already a network on the internet, but the network that I'm alluding to in this future is a network of beings. Maybe this is something interconnected, like many people have mentioned, the humans and AI together to accomplish this task. Do you feel that it would take, and I guess this is a question for all of you out here, do you think that it will take a future like that to make us more aware and be less destructive as a civilization? Basically, an awakening of a sort.
I feel that it's a combination of almost all the things we've discussed, in the context that I think I mentioned it earlier, but like we thought that one of the ways to cure current woes is to go back in time to prevent them from happening. Preventative medicine, if you will. And then Ray mentioned the additive effect of, like, as technology gets added, like that moment in time, it looks like it's 2024 is a lot more advanced than what it is now for us. But then I mentioned the additive effect moving forward. When you mentioned your the fact that AI was developed because of the culmination of humans' knowledge. So I guess in a way, and it's all, again, it's addressed in the series. Malcolm keeps on saying, I just need more time. What if, all that's needed is more time for us to, similar to how the technology accumulated every time someone goes back in time, what if we just needed more time for us to accumulate more knowledge to realize, hey, the path we're going down now is not going to be good for us in the future. So let's course correct here. Preemptively change, like affecting our future or changing our future, so to speak. Food for thought.
I realize this is late by like 5 minutes or so, but I thought I'd just share this one with you from Robert talking about how things have changed in information availability.
Oh, wow. That's an old iPhone.
If someone from the 1950s suddenly appeared today, what would the most difficult thing to explain to them be about life today? I possess a device in my pocket that is capable of accessing the entirety of information known to man. I use it to look at pictures of cats and get in arguments with strangers.
So it hasn't changed much.
No.
Wow. Nice. Okay. So, Ray, what is your thought on my comment there about humanity and what it would take for us to change our ways?
Humanity is heterogeneous. It's not homogeneous. It's not of the one mind. There are people out there who think exactly the way you do, and then there's survivalists who buy guns and ammunition and go hide in a cabin and are paranoid about everybody. And it's another continuum. It's another, that everybody is somewhere between the complete sort of digital communist and the complete digital paranoid introvert, as it were. So, we're all a bit different, and that makes it very difficult for the entire world to come to a decision about something like that. There is a novel called Vacuum Flowers, which I remember reading back in my early 20s, so, in the early 90s, which talked about this topic, not in huge detail, but the reason why it's memorable is because one of the events that happened in the timeline in this novel was that there was a singularity on Earth, and all the people on Earth were interconnected. So it's basically the Borg, but they weren't running around trying to assimilate everybody. They were just all connected, and you could actually, use information sniffing technology, and you could watch ideas appear in one person's mind and radiate out like droplets of water on a still pond, and the ideas would radiate out across humanity on the Earth. And even though they're all interconnected, it took time because light speed is a limit to how fast electrical impulses can go, or Wi-Fi, or whatever they were using to connect each other, and it took time for ideas to disseminate across the entire Earth. So there'd be all these like drops, like if you were watching a rainstorm on a bunch of puddles, all the spreading ideas were interconnecting and crossing over and mixing, like you'd see on the surface of a lake during a rainstorm. And it was a very interesting idea that even if we did manage to interconnect everybody on Earth, it still wouldn't be 100% interconnected and everybody immediately understood everything everybody else was thinking, because we're all different, we're all individuals, and even if you connected all those individuals up, it still wouldn't be a perfect single organism. It would still take time for information to disseminate. And the interesting thing was that there were people living on other planets by that stage, and in the asteroid belts and stuff, much like the Expanse, who weren't connected to that network, mainly because the distances were too great, that trying to stay connected was too hard. So until humanity creates a faster than light method of communication, be it quantum entanglement or something like that, then it wasn't possible beyond about the distance of the Earth to try and stay interconnected. So it was an interesting thought experiment about trying to interconnect everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have to ask that question because I have heard discussions online about that's what they believe it would take for humanity to transcend.
Yeah.
And that is, in essence, and I believe that's one of the reasons why Elon Musk created Neuralink, because he feels that we could achieve that only through help from AI. And he's trying to look up a way that we can actually connect ourselves with AI. So when that time comes, we would be ready. It kind of makes sense to me. Maybe as an empath, I see it in a positive light, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Where, because most of the reasons that we have conflict, it's a misunderstanding and that grows. So someone does something and they have a reason for, and then the other person perceives that and reacts to that as an offense. That first person reacts to that as an offense to them because they are doing nothing wrong. And it escalates to the point where we have wars. It's just because we have no way of truly understanding what's inside the other person's head. I mean, perfect example is our justice system. So we depend on a person to accuse and a person to defend, and trying to make the truth come out, so judges that are supposed to be unbiased can make a decision as to who is the guilty. Is it guilty? Is it not guilty? But we don't really have a way to truly see what happened, to truly probe inside someone else's head and see the truth. And even if we could see the truth, just know that our perception is just an interpretation of electrical impulses on our biological brain. So who is to say that if we are able to see what's inside someone's head, we'll come up with the correct conclusion? Because it will still be an interpretation of what we perceive.
Yes. Well, the whole thing is that information transfer between humans is very flawed. Language is as a method of passing on information, has huge limits in your intelligence, your experience with the language, your understanding of the concepts. And different people have different moralities, different personal codes. Different people have different flexibilities of mental thinking. Some people are very regimented and can't think outside a box, where other people can. Some people are very understanding, forgiving, and accepting, while other people aren't. So all of this is going to be very difficult to pass between individuals if our brains are connected. And of course, everybody has their own secrets that they don't want other people to know. And they all have things that they're ashamed of, that they don't want getting out. Everybody has their dark past, which or their kinks or what have you, that they're not comfortable sharing to a wider audience. And I think that there'd be very few people on earth who'd be willing to connect their brain up to everybody else's because of that. They'd be afraid of what other people think of them.
Yes.
So despite the idea that interconnecting our brains would solve a huge number of problems, I think that a lot of people would have problems with the whole concept and would refuse to do it. Yeah. So unless they're forced, I don't think it'd be happening.
Yeah. Well, if it is a force thing, you could also have rebellions. I mean,
yes.
So yeah, it's and I was thinking, even if we were able to exclude language, if you're able to pass raw concepts, to skip language, even at that, it will still be an interpretation, because that's what we do on a daily basis. We take the information we receive and we make a judgment on what it is and what we think it is.
Multilingual people have a preferred language they think in. It doesn't necessarily stay the same for their entire lives. If somebody learns a new language, like goes to live in a new country, and they spend most of their time talking in that new language, eventually they'll be thinking in that language because it's easier. Rather than having to translate between what they're thinking and what they're saying all the time, they will start thinking in that language eventually. Yeah. And you have a mental language. So my mental language is bad English, because I swear a lot in my head. But besides that, you basically have a mental language. Most of the complex things that you're trying to nut out in your head are verbal in the way you're thinking about them. oh hell, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? Oh, should I make a pasta? Should I make a curry? Oh, if I make a curry, I'm going to need this, and that from the store. I got nothing to drink with it, so I have to buy some drink as well. But I got to go and pick up the kids. Should I go shopping before or after? That's what's going on in your head, and it's in a language.
Yeah. And just to give you a perspective, I think in English.
Yeah.
And my parents, I want to say they kind of make fun of me when I speak Spanish because
it's Spanglish.
It's well, locally I'm lucky enough that when I speak Spanish, I don't say any words in English. It's just a structure.
Yeah, you construct in English sentences, which doesn't work. Yeah.
I translate in my head, and it leaves the structure of English in a Spanish sentence. And if you know what I mean there, it's the butt for many jokes because it doesn't sound right.
It's a grammar issue. Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And that leads me to perception again, because how many people you you see that are made fun of because maybe they're immigrants, right? Maybe they went into a different country. This could be any country. Could be someone that has moved to France, and France
People do that.
and French is not their the main language, right? And when they speak French, they speak that you can understand them, but they speak in a way that people make fun of them because of the way they speak. And it's something that is really interesting to me because if you think about it, the perception is that they're dumb, and that's why they're made fun of because in their perception they're dumb. When in fact it's the opposite, because it takes a lot of sweat and tears and time to actually learn another language. So that is actually a sign of intelligence.
Yeah. It's not actually dumb. It's different.
It's just a perspective.
People are comfortable with similarity. And that's why people gather together in silos of religion and ethnicity. That's why we have little Japan and little China and little whatever, because those people feel comfortable together because they have a cultural similarity which they can deal with. And having to deal with other cultures all the time tires people out because they're not used to it.
Yeah.
And they've got to think harder about it to get along with those people. So people just naturally congregate in language groups, in cultural groups, because it's easier.
Yeah.
And that makes us and them. Us is the same, them is different. So if you want to have an inside joke, you make fun of them because they're different.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the problems come in.
Yep.
Rather than being accepting and saying, hey, look, they're different. That's awesome because it's something new, something we can learn. They go, oh, no, I don't want to deal with that. It's too hard. It's extra effort. I'll just stick with my homies. And this causes huge amounts of problems, even just in multi-ethnic societies, let alone between countries.
Yeah.
I mean, when you mix two strong ethnicities together, and I'm not taking sides or giving anybody a hard time, but if you look at the Gaza Strip at the moment, you see a case in point. Or if you look at any sort of major war zone in the world, mostly what they're fighting over is either resources or culture.
World War II, World War One.
Yeah. Resources or culture. That's the two things humans fight over.
Yeah.
Us and them, or they've got the stuff we need.
To bring it back, I just got to ask this question. It's mainly for 50% of this panel watched the entire thing. And again, it's back to perspective, right?
Yeah.
Me and Gio have a perspective that spans from the very first 3 episodes of the show. You guys have a complete different perspective because you guys finished the entire thing. So the question that I want to ask is, what is one thing that hasn't been covered yet on our discussion, mainly because we have not watched the entire thing, that you think it deserves a mention about this specific show? Something that happened. And again, this is, our audience know this is spoilers heaven.
Yes.
So you could go really hard with the spoilers if you need to.
Okay.
I've got 2.
Can I go first for a change?
Yeah, go for it. I'm the
I don't
same.
know if
I've
I'm
got 2.
I don't know if I'm stealing one of yours, but let's just say I've already brought this up, but you do not understand how far down the rabbit hole goes, to borrow a term from the Matrix.
Nice.
The looping is far more complicated than you realize after the first 3 episodes. I'll just say that. It's not so much a spoiler, it's foreshadowing.
Nice.
There's way more looping than you are currently aware of.
Nice.
And that's why the technology is like it is, which is why I brought it up, but I didn't say why. Watch the damn show. It's awesome. We could have another go at this after you've watched the whole thing, because it adds like 17 different layers and you're like, the what?
Well, that'll give me a chance to redeem myself in actually showing up for the next one. And 2, I would really like, considering what we'd already discussed now, I would love to hear your guys' take once you've seen the whole thing. And like, well, as we've said, the additive effect of the knowledge of having watched it and having watched it and the additive knowledge of what we've discussed here.
Nice.
Which brings me, what Ray said was like pretty much half of one of my points. And it's sort of, I don't know if it's raised the question for you guys in your heads, but I mean, I have no doubt that when I mention it, you probably would start thinking about it, and I don't feel that it'll affect your viewing of the show once I do. But basically, aside from the knowledge of being able to develop Kuroko, something that I picked up on, but I didn't really sort of like the piece didn't come together until like episodes 5 and 6 sort of thing, is that why does Malcolm, like, yes, he has the intelligence to develop Kuroko, but why, and more importantly, how does Malcolm have so much knowledge of Skynet?
Bum, 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 bum.
What that guy said, or sounded, I should say. And like I said, that's a question that raised for me from episodes 2 and 3 onwards. And then as you guys watch episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the culmination in the finale of episode 8, that question will only become more apparent and obvious.
Let's just say that one man's prophetic dreams is another man's PTSD.
And the second thing, on the same level but from a different angle or a different loop, bum bum bum, is the same train of thought, but from the Terminator's perspective. Like,
wasn't that a great loop to throw in there?
Yeah, because like again,
last episode rocked.
When I say that it borrowed a lot from all the other movies, I'm not joking around. It did take and did so respectfully, might I add, at least in my opinion anyway. But in Terminator 1, he was evil. In Terminator 2, they purposely made him good because obviously the additive effective technology, the second Terminator had to be even more advanced, etc., etc. And again, that question is raised, but not until that probably won't happen until like at least episode 7, maybe even 8. But and he does have like a Darth Maul level of speaking lines. I'll say that much.
Wow.
Let's just say that everybody has a different opinion about what's going to cause the end of the world. I'm not talking about the end of human society. That's already a done deal. I'm talking about the end of the world. The entire world. Everything and everyone, including the AIs.
Wow.
It gets pretty serious.
It's deep. It's deep.
Yeah. No, it's a friggin' awesome show. You should have watched the rest of it. Then you'd be like,
awesome.
But they're my 2 main points that haven't been mentioned yet.
Good points. Yeah. So there's at least 3 different opinions about what is going to cause the end of the world, and they all disagree with each other.
Nice. Perspective.
That's right.
Okay, so are we at the point on the show where we are asking the last question?
Yeah, why not?
And I
For the pro return.
and I think I'm going to take a different approach here because of perspectives again. So I guess the first answers should come in from Gio and me, and then the last answers from Angelus and Ray, only because we have a different perspective, seeing that we watched the first 3. So the question that we normally ask in the show, if you're new to the show, is what is your last impression of the thing that we're discussing about? Gio, I don't know if you want to go first. By the way, me and Gio watched this on a watch party. You guys are all welcome to the watch party. We usually do that frequently on our Discord, where we are sitting together to watch the thing that we're about to discuss. That usually happens on a Sunday. So, Gio, I don't know if you want to go first or you want me to go first. It's up to you.
I can go first. What I love about this is that it's very simple and to the point. It's a continuation of an IP that we like. I am definitely finishing it, and I've liked what I've seen so far. And these guys are telling us that that's not even an introduction, so I can't wait to finish it. And I would highly suggest it to anybody that like Terminator. It's like we have said on previous episodes. You don't have to be an otaku to like anime. There's an anime for every kind of person.
Do we have a Terminator room in our chat on the Discord? We need one. We need one. That needs to go in before you finish.
Okay, we'll make it a thing.
Okay.
Okay, so my response will vary slightly. My perspective is slightly different. And let me start by saying, I know some of you are not anime fans. They don't like animation. I strongly believe that if you are a Terminator fan, you want to watch this. And this is coming from someone that has only watched 3 episodes. I love the aesthetics and how this not only adds to the Terminator universe as a whole, but it's kind of like a complete different perspective. So in the first 3 episodes, I already know how, aside from the conversation we had here, obviously I had some spoilers. but from the 3 episodes that I watched, I already know this is going to be a dip show. And when did I let me just be a little bit more specific as to where and when did I realize this is the kind of show that I'm watching. It is, I believe, on the second episode with the conversation with the AI. I knew at that point, this is a deep show. I want to say maybe even more so than the original movies. And again, I only have the basis of the first 3 episodes to say what I'm saying, to comment that I'm saying specifically from the second episode. Because there's a lot of things that I can see and I can't wait for the answers to. One example is the maid that I can bring up. Another example that I can bring up is the person who went back in time with the Terminator versus the old lady who sent her. There's a lot of things in here that I feel I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And I can see how deep this could go. I don't know yet, but I'll find out. So if you are a Terminator fan, disregard the fact that this is an anime. Forget about that. The story is what you should be after. If you're a Terminator fan, you should watch this and get on our Discord and let's talk about it. Like you heard Ray, we are going to make because apparently I didn't know. I thought we had a Terminator channel, but we will make one. But get on and let's talk about it, because I want to see your perspective, especially if you are a hardcore Terminator fan who does not like anime. I really want to hear your perspective. And with that, I finish my last thoughts.
Well, our other last thoughts has wandered off for a moment. So where do we go from here?
I'll ask this question of you. Technically, it's a question I can ask the entire panel, but I'll ask Robert specifically. But keep in mind, I'll be asking this question with the idea that there will be 2 perspectives in play. If you dived into the ocean and then before you came up for air for the first time, if you had somehow gained the capability of breathing underwater, would you go back up to the world you knew, or would you continue deeper into the ocean, into a world that you want to explore more of? And the second perspective that I mentioned is that someone that saw you dive in, if you decided to stay under and continue to explore, they're looking at the ocean saying, why isn't he coming back up for air? What happened? That's how I feel like it combines both the metaphorical rabbit hole that this show creates, as well as the wonder and amazement of the story that it's not only adapted, but also created a new version of. It's rare for a show to, again, I do harken back to the adaptation of Alita, because it's introduced the story of the Technarchy into the franchise that didn't exist in any other version, but it managed to pay homage to the source material, both of them, so eloquently. And I feel that Terminator Zero has done the same here. It's created its entire own story, and yet it's paid homage to and taken elements from all the other stories: Terminator 1, 2, Genesis, Dark Fate, everything. So it's Again, and this can be my final thoughts as well. That whether you are a Terminator fan, whether you're an anime fan, cyberpunk, or just sci-fi in general, and this kind of looks cool, and you want to know more about it, again, something that Alita taught me is, definitely give it a shot. It is really worth forming your own opinion, even if that opinion is that you don't like it after you finish watching it. Because I don't know, maybe it made you think too much. But then again, on the flip side, if you don't like things that make you think too much while you're watching sci-fi, but yeah, so that's my.
I mean, there are people who can watch sci-fi for the pretty spaceships and the zappy lasers and stuff. If you like nuclear explosions, this show is for you.
Yeah, there are sci-fi dedicated for those people. I like to call maybe fantasy sci-fi, soft sci-fi, which is it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I do agree with you, Angelus. Even if you watch this and decide that you don't like it, you already gain a perspective. And that's very important. You learn something.
And I want to. Sorry, I'll redirect and polish it off with something that I'm taking from another sci-fi, Starship Troopers. Lieutenant Razchek, when he's talking with why am I having a brain fart? Who does Casper Van Dien play again? Rico. When Razchek is talking to Rico, it's like Razchek says something along the lines of, self-discovery, or basically thinking yourself is one of the greatest gifts, or greatest discoveries you can have. Use it. And I apply that to this as well. If, like I said, if you watch it and decide it's not for you, at least, you can argue with someone about it and say, well, I watched it, I still didn't like it, still didn't understand it, rather than say, oh, this looked crap, it didn't make sense to me, I didn't like the trailer, so I didn't bother watching it, but I'm going to argue with you anyway, and then just falls apart from there. So again, like I said, that's something that Alita taught me, and yeah, there's something powerful about forming your own opinion, and especially so for sci-fi, because it does make you think.
Definitely. Awesome. I guess that leads our math scientist.
Yeah. So what can I say about this show? Angelus, you were so right. I had to watch this. I had to binge it. I cannot understand how Robert is sitting there not foaming at the mouth to get back to this show. I can't understand how he's watched 3 episodes and he's like, yeah, I'll watch it later with my wife.
Isn't that what I'm trying to close the show right now?
It could be. if you're about to step away with your wifey for 3 hours of anime watching, I could fully grasp the necessity of that.
Right, see you guys later.
Bye. Close the show real quick now. We've still got a few segments to go, but this particular show, I mean, I'm biased. I admit it. I love anime. I like all sorts of anime, from the cheesy, stupid, glitzy stuff to the super serious, cyberpunky, blood and gore sci-fi stuff, which this one is closer to than the stupid comedy stuff. But I like the storytelling of anime almost globally. Like it just works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. But what I really appreciate about this piece of work is that it's about the length of a longish movie. It tells a really good story arc. The characters are deep and complicated. There's a whole bunch of twists and turns. it pays like serious homage to the Terminator franchise in its entirety. It puts a Japanese bent on a very Western IP, and it does it brilliantly. It's just so, it just works. It works for me more than the average person because I love anime, but it works as a Terminator story. It really works. It adds a whole nother chapter to what's been happening in the movies and the shows and stuff. And it's just really freaking good. I mean, we don't have a rating scale on this pod, and I know why, but it very highly rated. Just FYI. Big points from the mad scientist. So if you're an anime fan, absolutely check it out. Yeah. If you're a Terminator fan, absolutely check it out. If you're neither but you love sci-fi, check it out. It's really good. That's about it for me. Oh, you better go, Robert.
Yeah. I'll see you guys. You guys can close, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'll sort it out. The plumber's been and gone now. I have a new tap in the kitchen, so or faucet, as you guys call it. So
nice. Okay. So can we move on to the next segment? Or do we have any more to add?
A certain chaos hasn't come back, so he can't do his final words. He'll watch the rest of it, and we'll get it on Discord, I guess.
No, I think he went. He already went. We went first for last thoughts.
Actually, I think he did as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Did he? Oh, maybe I'm just oblivious.
Gotcha.
There he is.
Okay, so we're safe to go to the next segment.
Sure.
And sci-fi.
I don't got much to offer for this one.
Well, it's a little bit tricksy, this one. I mean, mainly the science and sci-fi is to sort of talk about how the ideas in a particular IP, or this part of this IP, has impacted on ideas going forward in science. And of course, this has only been out for a couple of weeks, so it doesn't really give much time for the ideas to percolate. But then, of course, this IP as a ongoing thing has been going since the 80s, so it has been around quite a while. And we didn't have a nuclear war in 1997. We haven't been attacked by machines and nearly wiped out. So that didn't happen, as far as I can remember. Do you guys remember that happening? I don't remember it happening.
No. I'm thinking really hard, but I don't think it happened.
Yeah, I think I know why it didn't happen. Because they went to send a Terminator back in time, and it appeared in the same position that they were in the future, and was floating around in space and never interacted with the Earth again.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it's called time and space, people, and you can't divide them. They exist as a single entity, time and space. There's no comma. You can't separate them. So the Earth isn't where it was, 40 years ago. It's a long way away from there. So yeah, that's why we haven't seen this, Terminator thing happening, because every time they try and go back in time, it doesn't happen because they end up floating around space. And that's my reason why we haven't seen any effects of this on our timeline. Having said that, I mean, I am being a little bit picky about the story here, and it's fair enough, I think. But I was impressed that now you haven't got to this point in the story yet, Robert and Giancarlo, but you remember the Koniko, the cat robot that was brought into the house, and Michael didn't like it. Well, it escapes numerous times because it's a little shit. But there's a point where the Terminator goes into their apartment and discovers the box and goes, okay, well, I know that they have one of these robots. I'm going to tap into it and use it to find them. And he stands up there and goes,
Yep.
and he basically does the 9800 baud modem thing and connects to the internet of 1997.
Wow.
So it dials in.
It dialed
Kind of
up.
like a
It dialed up.
We actually had a conversation, me and Gio, and I was kind of laughing though, because that is a way to connect analogically to a device, but the issue is you still need that device built in to, I mean, the modem built into that device, and no manufacturer out there is going to add functionality to a product that will not be used. That's just a waste of money.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Oh, before you move on, I just wanted to put perspective to a point that you mentioned earlier. The Earth moves through space. And I'm kind of like, please correct me if I'm wrong. This is coming from space.com. But the Earth is moving through space at a speed of 447,000 miles per hour. How fast are your car goes?
A DeLorean can't go that fast.
doesn't need to. Just needs to get to 88.
No. Look, certain time travel shows have done it right, specifically being Doctor Who, because TARDIS stands for time and dimensional. I'm trying to remember. Time and relative dimensional. Time and relative dimensions in space. That's what TARDIS stands for, right? And the TARDIS moves through time and space because they're connected.
Time and relative dimension in space. Yep, you got it.
So basically, the people who were advising Doctor Who way back in the 60s had it right. And so many other time travel shows have just been brainless and got it wrong. You can't travel through time only. You have to travel through time and space because nothing stays put. And I've mentioned this many, many times before, and Terminator is one of those franchises that just ignores the second part of those intertwined physical things. So
let me add something to what you just said, Ray, that I think it needs to be said. We do that today, right? Without, obviously, we don't time travel, but because
we do. We time travel forward at 1 second per second.
You're right. So in order for us to get to Mars, for example, or even to the moon, right? We have to account for time and space because space-time is a thing. You can actually look it up. Space-time is a thing. Our human brain cannot compute the fact that space-time is one thing. We want to say space, we want to say time, but we don't want to think about space-time. And the reason why I'm saying this is because NASA, in order to get, for example, to Mars, they got to shoot the rocket to where Mars will be at the time that it reaches there, because space-time is a thing. So whenever we're traveling through space, we have to deal with time. And this is something that not many people can really comprehend. So sorry.
But you know, every video gamer from way back when, and I've been playing video games since 1978, I think. But any video gamer
That's
from way back
long
when knows you have to lead your shots.
time.
And that is accounting for space-time.
Yes.
So believe it
you've
or
got a
not,
point there.
gamers are always accounting for space-time, whether they know it or not.
Yep. Nice. Sorry, I just have to mention that because you touched the point and it's like, yes, I have to say something about that.
That's fine. Look, the science behind science fiction is not just my little, playground. It's everybody's. I have no problem with being interrupted to add other salient points. I'm all down for that. Now, getting back to Mr. 9800 baud modem Terminator, I thought that was a good inclusion, but I also thought it was a bit stupid because if you've got advances of technology that bring you semi-sentient robot pets and human-sized robots running around supporting, like construction and emergency services and all this sort of stuff, and like personal robots to look after you if you're disabled or what have you, or getting old. That's all well and good that technology has advanced further than it was for our 1997. And we've discussed about the loop back of technology and how that's pushed technology forward. But you couldn't necessarily have that advancement without other advancements like Wi-Fi, because there's software updates that have to be pushed out. Nobody's going to wander around with a USB stick and stick it into all those robots to try and update their firmware. It's got to be wireless, and those robots were communicating wirelessly. Now, why the hell would you have a certain level of Wi-Fi, which certainly wasn't around in 97, but not faster modems?
I have a theory as to why we see it in the show.
Why is that?
I have a theory, not necessarily correct, but it makes sense. It would be boring to have the Terminator stand there, connect through the internet via Wi-Fi, which is the most possible explanation, and hack into the system to then hack into the cat. It would be just him standing there doing nothing.
No, he was making the noises. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Versus what we see in the show, where he opens up his mouth, I think, and there's noise of the modem. Which
it was cute in a retro kind of way, but it didn't really mesh with the different 97 that they were portraying.
Yeah.
I didn't think it worked as a logical step. And I do agree with you. I mean, for fuck's sake, they had holographic control surfaces, and that's like off in the future of another IP that we covered, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which is way off in the future, according to that IP, and yet they had it in 97 in this reality that we're seeing in Terminator. And if they can have holographic control surfaces, I think they can have better than 9800 baud modems. Sorry, it just doesn't compute, to borrow a phrase.
Now, can we explain what that is for some of the audience? Because I'm sure some of the audience are wondering, what the heck are they talking about? What is a baud?
Okay. what a baud? A
baud modem. Like, what is that?
Well, you're our computer guru. You explain it to them.
So basically, back in the day, the beginnings of the internet. Yeah, I remember that. It makes me feel old. The way to connect to the internet was via a telephone. So they invented devices where you could actually connect. And I believe the beginning of a modem, it was unplugging because back then you had headsets on the phones. You have the receiver and you have a speaker and a mic. So the speaker was on the top and the mic was at the bottom. So at the beginning, those modems, you would have to unplug that from the phone, connect it to Cubs on a device and then have the computer dial the numbers for that other computer that you wanted to connect to. And that process is what we hear in this show when the Terminator is dialing out. So it is actually connecting two computers together using a telephone system. Later, we have these are the devices that I used, where you unplug the cable from the back of the phone and plug it into this device that is, again, a modem. It's just a different kind of modem. And this also is connected to the computer. So you have a piece of software in the computer where you enter the phone number of the computer that you wanted to go connect to and press the connect button. And it will actually make those sounds. Actually, I think it makes the sounds louder. Then you don't have the little cups on the phone, because you hear those sounds. Which, if you are today in a medical office, and maybe you work in a medical office, you could still hear those sounds coming from the fax machine because they're still using the same technology. So that was a long explanation, but basically it's a way to connect two computers together.
And it's analog.
Completely analog.
So the difference between digital and analog is analog has a scale, whereas digital is on or off. So if the message is being transferred in either ones or zeros, on or off, then it's digital. But if the message is coming through on a scale, which obviously audio through a phone line runs on a scale rather than an on or off signal, then it's analog. But what they have is called a RAM DAC, which is digital audio conversion. So the digital signals from the computer is converted from digital ones and zeros to audio, and that goes through the telephone line, much like your voice would, and then it's reconverted back into digital for the other computer.
That is why the name of the modem comes from, by the way. It is modulation and demodulation. So dem. Mo is modulation. Dem is demodulation.
So yeah, basically they converted it into audio speech, sort of to be able to use the phone line, and then it went back again. And then, of course, technology improved, and then they used the same copper cable for audio and digital transmissions on a different wavelength, but through the same physical cable. And then it became light pulses on or off through fiber optic cable. And of course, you can have lots of different fibers in the bundle, and the light flashes are a lot quicker than the audio transmission, and there was no translation between digital and audio and then back again. So it was a lot faster, and that's how we got faster internet.
Yeah.
Now, this brings me to my next point, which is networks. It's stated in the show that it took 0.1 seconds after Skynet was activated for it to take over the nuclear arsenal of the US and launch the nukes. 0.1 seconds. It went, I exist. Oh, humans are bad. Kill them all. And then it took over the launch sites and launched the missiles. You know what? That's not physically possible, because all of those launch sites are isolated from the internet. And it's not just launch sites, it's power stations, it's hydroelectric systems. They're all isolated deliberately to stop this sort of shit from happening. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your firewalls and stuff are. If a hacker is really, really good, he will hack his way through and get through your network and into the parts of your network that you don't want them getting into. And you know what the best way to stop that from happening is? Isolate your systems. So all across the world, really important shit like nuclear reactors, hydroelectric schemes, power grid control systems, and surprisingly enough, nuclear launch sites are all isolated. They do not have network access. You cannot get onto the net and play Snake.io from a nuclear launch site because they have no internet access at all. And that's deliberate to stop this shit happening.
So they took a page from the playbook of Terminator and learned.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that a lot of these systems run on really, really old software, and that's deliberate as well, because there's so few people who understand those programming languages now that it's really hard to hack them, even if you can physically get into them, because nobody can understand them anymore.
I was just going to mention that. There's programming languages that I actually heard about in school that I never really used.
Yeah, because they're out of vogue already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's basically the plot of another movie which we should really cover called Space Cowboys. Remember that one?
Oh yes.
I won't spoil the plot, but go watch Space Cowboys. It's a really good movie. It's got some great older actors in it, including Clint Eastwood. It was they were getting on when this was made, which was like 20 years ago. So some of them are dead. I mean, it basically, the whole plot of that movie is what I'm talking about. So go and watch Space Cowboys and you will understand a little bit more about what I mean. But yeah, so networks in the 90s, they would have had to be a lot better to facilitate what these AIs in this story were trying to do, and they would have had to use more than 9800 baud modem to do it. But yeah, beyond those logical fallacies, it's still a great story. It just doesn't quite work. I think that computing facilities across the board to create these AIs would have had to be a fair bit better, and that would have been another factor of the loopback of technology, that it would have leaked out a bit, much like Velcro came from Area 51 from alien spacecraft. You heard about that, right?
I think so. Wasn't it one of those things that Chaos mentioned?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Now the other thing is nuking every population center on Earth, which is basically what Skynet did. And then Skynet then being able to control networks across the world is a complete logical fallacy, because you know where those network nodes are? In the population centers of the world.
Yeah.
Basically, he blew up his network and then somehow was supposed to be able to control factories and computer systems and stuff distance from where he was, which was total bullshit, because nothing would have been connected anymore. Now, fair enough, there are satellites in orbit that wouldn't have been necessarily affected. They could have been. I mean, there would have been enough EMP to basically fry whatever was left.
Yeah.
Even up into low Earth orbit. Maybe geosync might have been safe far enough away, but certainly anything in low Earth orbit would have been fried by all that EMP.
Yeah, but everything on the ground could have been fried by the EMP. So even if satellites are good, there's no receiving end.
That's right. So they would have had to been rebuilt. So Skynet would have had to start from whatever technology he could access local to him and work out from there, start building factories to produce Terminators, or start making connections to the satellites and then go to send something to the factory to then make a connection so he could access it, to then retool it and then start building Terminators. The idea that Skynet could blow up all the population centers and then still have access to any sort of network on Earth is complete and utter bullshit, because he destroyed it along with us. See, I had a little bit of a problem with that, but you know, this is just my logical thinking saying, yeah, there's a truck going through that plot hole, but maybe you should fill it up somehow. But yeah. And then I sort of look back at 1999 when I had a Furby and I thought it was the shit.
Yes, I remember that. It was amazing.
Yeah, I thought Furbies were great. And our AIs were like Tamagotchis.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yes. I had quite a few that died.
Mm.
That's the story.
You know Skynet's coming after you for that.
I couldn't feed him fast enough, man.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so going from plot holes in the technology of the movie to the ideas of artificial intelligence development, and I don't know if you want to talk a bit about this, but as a part-time editor for IT articles, there's been a lot that have been crossing my digital desk recently about AI and how they're developing and what's involved. And of course, I have mentioned time and time again that none of these AIs are sentient. In fact, they're much dumber than the dumbest person, because, again, they follow the logic that they've been given, and the only information they have is what they've been trained on, and that information can be biased. And then they have what's called, I'm trying to remember the correct term. It's not imagine. It's a less positive term. They I can't think what it is. Basically, when somebody sees something that's not there, I can't think of the term. Yeah, sorry, not an illusion.
Oh, okay.
But it's similar. It's sort of like when your brain's showing you stuff that isn't there. I can't think of the damn term. But anyway, they make shit up, but not in a positive way. It's almost like assuming things that aren't there, and it breaks the function in as much as when you ask them something, they will give you back a completely nonsensical answer because they've just got it wrong, because they don't have any actual functional ability to say, no, that's not right, based on what I know. That makes no sense. I mean, people will come up with all sorts of wacky ideas and then start crossing them off their mental chalkboard, saying, "Oh no, that's stupid. That will never work. No, that makes no sense." I do it all the time in my writing. I go, okay, I want to get to this point in my writing. How am I going to get there? And how am I going to do it without creating a huge plot hole? And I go, this might happen. No, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, this could happen. Yeah, but that character's not like that. They're not going to do that. And, you come up with ideas and then you cross them off. But AI, as they exist at the moment, can't do that. They come up with an answer, and that's the answer that they've come up with. And they just spit it out. There's no fact checking. There's no cross checking. It's just what you get. And sometimes it's right, and sometimes it's a load of shit. And so, we don't have artificial intelligence as far as intellect is concerned. It's putting together what it can find that matches the query, but it may or may not be correct. And of course, the more they learn, the more you teach them, the better they get at getting the right answers out of the data that they have, but they still have no intelligence to fact check and decide whether or not what they came up with makes any sense. There's just no ability to do that. Mm-hmm. So they're not actually artificially intelligent. They're just what I call an expert system. They put together information and spit it out.
I like to call it dumb AI.
Dumb AI. Well, you can do that as well. You can call it dumb AI. But they're not thinking. And that's the important part. Once they do start thinking, we're all in a bit of trouble, as you can probably imagine. But they're not thinking these things. And it's a pretty big jump to go from even what we have now in 2024 to something like Skynet.
Yes.
Or Kuroko, where it's actually thinking. So, again, with parallels to what's talked about in this show, there's two ways to come up with an AI. You tell it how to think, and then it has all the flaws that you programmed into it because you're a flawed individual, or you teach it stuff and let it learn to think for itself. You don't tell it what its name is. You ask it what it would like to be called.
Yeah.
You treat it as an individual with a functional choice. And that was the difference between Skynet and Kuroko. Skynet was programmed and it followed its programming. And we all know how that turned out. Didn't turn out very well for us humans. But Lee was attempting to create or grow an AI from the ground up. And he had one success, and then he relocated and was attempting to have another success and change the outcome of Judgment Day. And I won't spoil you, Robert, but you can probably guess that it didn't go as well as he was hoping.
You can kind of tell from the second episode where that was going.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, yeah, artificial intelligence development still got a long way to go before we end up with anything like Skynet. And then, of course, he won't be able to get into the nuclear launch facilities because they're isolated, and that's deliberate. Now, what he could do is deep fake the commander in chief and order them to be launched through a deep fake after taking control of the communication systems. That could be done. But to digitally hack in and take over the systems digitally, no, never happened.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what I got. Do you want to talk about any of your other points that you dropped in here?
No, I just want to go and watch the show.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for joining us on another adventure through sci-fi on the Science Fiction Remnant. You can catch us on our Discord. We will be discussing this heavily in a new section that Robert's about to put in there about Terminator. If there isn't one already, I'm not surprised there isn't. I would have thought that there would have been. Yeah, jump on our Discord. Please join us there. It's pretty easy to get on. You just download the app on your phone, or you get it on your PC, and then use the link that we have up on the screen right now for those who are watching the video, or you can use the link in the show notes with the episode of the pod, and you too can join us on our Discord. We have lots of lively discussion there. Yes, there's a lot of discussion about anime, but that's because I turned everybody into otakus, but you'll have to forgive me for that. There's also a lot of discussion about sci-fi as well. Please join us for that, or if you like anime, talk to me about that, because I just won't shut up. But there are sci-fi animes, much like this one, and a lot of them are very good. This one is very good. You should watch it. We also have some websites, sciencefictionremnant.com. On that one, you can find not only our latest podcast and our back catalogue, but there are also articles written by hosts and guests to do with all sorts of things to do with science and how we think the science of sci-fi might work. So check those out. They're mostly short reads, so you can blast through a few in a lunch break. Check those out. And if you have an idea for one, please let us know. We'd love for you to give us that, pass along that idea. Or if you're a bit of a writer yourself, you could write for us, and you could have your name up there next to an article that you wrote yourself. So consider that and give it a shot, because you never know if you don't give it a go. We also have another website called thisissci-fi.net. That one is specifically for creators, although we're happy for anybody to come along and check it out. But that's mainly a creator space. It's in its infancy, but we'd really like to make that a happening thing for creators to get their work out there, to get themselves known, and to enhance the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag. So do check that one out if you're a creator. We'd love for you to join us. We have a Patreon in its infancy, as I've said before, but we'd love it if you could possibly drop us a few shekels every month. Being an early joiner to that Patreon, you could get to have a say in what sort of Patreon rewards you get, be it special recordings or a chat with the hosts, or to impart your ideas upon us about what you think we should be doing. We'd certainly look into those if you'd like to let us know. Of course, if patrons a bit rich for your blood, dropping a bit of money every month, you can do a one-off buy me a coffee. We always appreciate any money that you can put towards the pod, as it is not free to produce a podcast, and Robert is footing the bill for those at the moment. So if you could help us out at all with buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate that, and so would the rest of the crew. Remember, we have a hotline. You can leave us a message on 1305-563-6334. That's 1305-563-6334. If you're in the continental United States, you can drop the 1. Otherwise, you'll need that 1 when you put in your prefix to call internationally. You can leave us a message there anytime you like. It could be a review of one of our episodes. It could be a comment on what you thought about something we said, be it positive or negative. We are still waiting for our first 1-star review, because apparently if you haven't had a 1-star review, you haven't made it yet. Chaos would love for you to light up on him. So if you feel at all the urge to give Chaos a piece of your mind, please give us a call and do so. If you want to keep that communication private, we are quite willing to do so. But if you are willing, we would love to play it on one of our follow-up shows and talk around the points that you've raised, because we always love to interact with our listeners. If you are one of those listeners that do have a strong opinion about a particular IP, whether we've covered it before or we are yet to enjoy that one, please join our Discord and let us know, or leave us a message on the hotline. We would love to hear from you. We would love to get your opinion on anything to do with sci-fi, and we would love to have a discussion with you, because that's what we're all about. Science Fiction Remnant's about discussion and deep dives, and we'd love to have them with you. And of course, if you're a local area expert on a particular IP we haven't covered yet, and you'd like us to cover that one, do feel free to let us know, and do feel free to join us, because we'd love to have you on, just like we've had Angelus on here, who watched Terminator 0 and went, guys, we're going to do this one. Ah! So you can see, look at his face. He's all excited. So if you would like to do an Angelus and join us on the show, you're quite welcome to. Contact us. Let us know. Let us know what the IP is, and we'd love to have you on. So with that, thank you for joining us for yet another awesome episode of Science Fiction Remnant. That's my personal opinion. Other people's results may vary, but we do hope you enjoyed it, and we do hope you'll join us for the next episode of Science Fiction Remnant. Bye for now.
Bye.